Chapter 306. Han Yunxi, stop. I'm warning you, if you don't let go, you'll have to bear the consequences. Han Yunxi, do you hear me? Stop. Chu Chinga was still wasting her breath on Han Yunxi even after she'd offended her. Han Yunxi's lips quirked up into a wicked smile as she leisurely tugged at her sash. Soon enough, the ribbon was completely undone with a flick of the bow, revealing her white undergarments. Ah! Chu Chinga immediately shrieked. The Chu clan's upbringing was conservative, so how could a proud girl like her stand such a thing? Soon enough, her eyes were wet with tears. Han Yunxi was truly wicked. Seeing the girl on the verge of tears, she smiled even more innocently and pretended to keep going. Now Chu Chinga was truly afraid. She quickly begged, Han Yunxi, I'm begging you to let me go. Han Yunxi, I was wrong about the poison grounds. Just let me go. Chu Chinga was scared to death. She was so scared that she dropped all her pride and admitted defeat to Han Yunxi. After all, this was Tianning's capital city. She and Duanmu Bei were here as representatives of Western Zhou to celebrate the birthday. If she really took off her robes and things got out of hand, she'd lose both face for the Chu clan and Western Zhou. She'd be finished for the rest of her life too. The cold beauty was already begging for mercy, so how could Han Yunxi have the nerve to keep going? She smiled and personally tied Chu Chinga's robes before patting her. What's there to be nervous about? I was just joking. Did eldest Miss Chu take it seriously? Do I look like such a despicable person? All right, Han Yunxi wasn't such a saint. She simply had her misgivings. After all, Chu Chinga had come to Tianning as an external envoy. If she made a big fuss, wouldn't Emperor Tianhui use her as a pigtail? She hadn't even dealt with the matters of Western Mountain yet, so she couldn't leave her pigtail for others to catch. Moreover, her bet with Chu Chinga was related to the matter of the poison grounds. If she angered this woman enough to expose the matter, wouldn't she offend Medical City again? Han Yunxi was not a person who would act on impulse. She knew her limits. Moreover, there was still Mu Ling on the side. That girl wasn't to be trifled with. If she was given a chance, she might even torture Chu Chinga to death. Chu Chinga was still panicking, her face ashen. When she saw that Han Yunxi had really stopped, her heart finally settled back into her chest. How could she be willing to accept this? Proud people hated people who stepped on their pride the most. If it was said that she was jealous of Han Yunxi before, then now it had been upgraded to resentment. She didn't dare to show it on the spot, but she secretly swore that if she didn't get her revenge, her surname wouldn't be Chu. Mu Linger's heart was trembling with fear as she watched. She was completely engrossed in the fight, but when she saw that Han Yunxi wasn't doing anything, she lost all interest. If I could move right now, I'd slap Chu Chinga a few times. Child, come here. Han Yunxi gently beckoned to the little beggar girl on the side. The little beggar girl immediately ran over and looked at Han Yunxi, her large eyes shining with gratitude. Mu Ling-er's face grew heavy at the sight. She was the one fighting for the little beggar girl's sake, while Han Yunxi was only seizing the chance to get revenge. Han Yunxi handed a pill to the little beggar girl with a smile. Although they've been poisoned with different poisons, this pill can treat all of them. There's only one, so you can decide who you want to give it to. Han Yunxi's words made Chu Chinga's eyes widen. Han Yunxi, you. The little beggar girl would definitely save Mu Ling-er. Wouldn't Mu Ling-er tear her apart in the next hour? Mu Ling-er was very surprised. She looked straight at Han Yunxi, just as Han Yunxi looked back. The two of them stared at each other for a while before averting their eyes. Han Yunxi rubbed the little beggar girl's head and teased, I'm leaving. You don't have to give the antidote to anyone, either. This was just a joke. How could that be possible? The little girl wasn't an idiot. Seeing Han Yunxi descend the stairs, Chu Chinga cried out, Han Yunxi, come back. You can't be like this. Come back. The little beggar girl immediately moved a stool to stand by Mu Ling-er's side and fed Mu Ling-er the antidote. Big sis, thank you. My name is Su Xiaoyu. That was all she said. She didn't care whether Mu Ling-er would keep asking Chu Chinga to apologize or not, but jumped off the stool to chase after Han Yunxi. Now only Mu Ling-er and Chu Chinga were left on the second floor. Mu Ling-er's body was recovering, so it wouldn't be long before she could move again. Seeing Mu Ling-er walk in front of her, Chu Chinga's heart pounded. What are you planning to do? Mu Ling was a person who drew a clear line between her likes and dislikes. If she liked someone, she'd have no limits. If she didn't like someone, she'd be resolute. What do you think I'm planning to do? She asked seriously. I'm warning you if you dare. Before Chu Chinga could finish, Mu Ling slapped her across the face with a resounding slap. Just like the slap Chu Chinga had left on Su Xiaoyu's face, 5 blood-red fingerprints were clearly visible. It was a ghastly sight. You don't have to apologize now. Aren't you happy? Rather than make her apologize, she might as well slap her back. Chu Chinga only felt the side of her face burning as if it was about to burst into flames. But this was nothing compared to the fire burning in her heart, which had long been ignited. Damned girl, tell me your name if you have the guts. She raged. Medicine City's Mu clan. Mu Ling, What do you think? Mu Ling, replied immediately. She didn't change her surname or name. She was open and above board. You. Chu Chinga was surprised. She never expected the woman to be Medicine City's genius pharmacist. But so what if she was from the Mu clan? Mu Ling, you better kill me with one blow. Otherwise, I'll make sure you die a horrible death. Chu Chinga warned coldly. This was the first time in her life that a woman had hit her, much less in the face. Do you think I don't dare? Mu Ling, retorted loudly. Han Yunxi didn't act on impulse, but this girl was absolutely impulsive. She couldn't hold back her words or hold back her anger. Without a word, she viciously yanked at Chu Chinga's belt. Mu Ling, stop it. Stop it. Did you hear me? Stop it. Are you tired of living? Mu Ling allowed Chu Chinga to scream and scream as she turned a deaf ear. She used both hands to rip off Chu Chinga's outer robes. Oh, ah! Chu Chinga had lost her mind. She screamed and screamed, too scared to even beg for mercy. But Mu Ling would probably ignore her anyway. Soon enough, she took off Chu Chinga's robes as well. You dare to use an aphrodisiac on me? I'll let you know what it means to be tired of living. Save me. Sob, save me. Finally, Chu Chinga was scared to tears. She stood there in her undergarments, unable to move. But Mu Ling didn't stop there. Instead, she grabbed Chu Chinga's belt. Han Yunxi might have misgivings, but she didn't. If Han Yunxi wouldn't do it, then she'd do it. No. Chu Chinga was already on the verge of collapse. But it was at this moment that a figure suddenly flashed by and snatched Chu Chinga away. Mu Ling immediately chased after her, but couldn't see her as soon as she reached the window. She gave a cold snort and said, Consider yourself lucky. Mu Ling stood by the window for a while before she gradually calmed down. She looked back at the mess in the room before her eyes rested on Han Yunxi's seat. She knew Han Yunxi had done it on purpose. Fine, she'd admit it. That woman had saved her. But who was the person who'd saved Chu Chinga? Mu Ling was too lazy to think any further. She was in a great mood today. Currently, Han Yunxi was being held back by the little beggar named Su Xiaoyu. Wherever Han Yunxi went, she followed in silence. Child, just what will it take for you to leave? Why are you following me? It wasn't that Han Yunxi lacked compassion. She'd already given Su Xiaoyu a bag of silver, enough for her to survive in the capital, but she still wouldn't leave. Su Xiaoyu blinked her large, clear eyes as she pursed her lips. It wasn't that she didn't want to speak, but that she didn't dare. Han Yunxi sighed and crouched down to ask patiently, Speak. What do you want to do? Only then did Su Xiaoyu speak up timidly. Big sister, I want to be your servant. Please accept me. Servant? Han Yunxi didn't know how to reply. She felt uncomfortable hearing those words. Although she came from modern times, she didn't believe in equality. She knew that the strong were destined to be superior to the weak. But she didn't like hearing a child say those words. Esteemed Wang Fei, I don't know who my father is or who my mother is. I've always been alone. I don't need so much silver. Su Xiaoyu returned the bag of silver to Han Yunxi. Big sister, if you accept me as your servant, you just need to provide me with food and shelter. I'm very diligent. This little girl was precocious, but she was only 7 or 8 years old. Looking at Su Xiaoyu's large, innocent eyes, Han Yunxi's heart ached. She hesitated for a moment before nodding. Let's go. Come back with me. In any case, Leisurely Cloud Pavilion only had one elder, Zhao Mama. It wouldn't be bad to have a little girl to accompany her. Han Yunxi led Su Xiaoyu back to the Duke of Qin's residence. When they arrived at the entrance, Su Xiaoyu stood there in a daze. "Let's go." Han Yunxi didn't mind the dirt and continued to hold her hand. "Your esteemed Wang Fei?" Su Xiaoyu asked timidly. Han Yunxi smiled. "What, you don't have the guts to be my servant?" Su Xiaoyu quickly shook her head. "I dare." After entering the estate, Han Yunxi first gave Su Xiaoyu to Steward Luo to train for a few days, then told him to send her to Leisurely Cloud Pavilion in a few days. As soon as she arrived, Chu Shifeng chased after her. "Esteemed Wang Fei, where did you pick up this beggar?" Han Yunxi told him about the restaurant, causing Chu Shifeng's mouth to twitch. He didn't say much, but he had to investigate Su Xiaoyu's origins in private. Anyone who wasn't personally named by His Highness Duke of Qin had to be thoroughly investigated before entering the estate, even if it was a child. "Where's His Highness? When will he be back?" Han Yunxi asked. The day after tomorrow was the Empress Dowager's birthday. Long Fei Yi might have made his stance clear by using eunuch shui, but he wouldn't go so far as to not attend, right? This subordinate doesn't know. Chu Shifeng really didn't know. He only knew that His Highness came back every night. 2 days later, on the day of the Empress Dowager's birthday, Han Yunxi waited from noon until nightfall, but Long Fei Yi still hadn't shown up. The birthday banquet was a banquet, but most of the imperial family had gone to the palace at noon. Long Fei Yi naturally wouldn't show up early, but he couldn't be late either. As night fell, Han Yunxi sat outside his sleeping quarters, growing more and more worried as she waited. What's wrong with that guy? Did something happen to him? Chapter 307. Han Yunxi waited and waited, but Long Fei Yi still didn't show up. Even Zhao Mama began to grow suspicious. "Esteemed Wang Fei, could it be that His Highness doesn't want to go? I'm just afraid that he's met with some unexpected misfortune." Han Yunxi understood the current political situation quite well. Logically speaking, Long Fei Yi had to attend the Empress Dowager's birthday banquet. Logically speaking, Long Fei Yi had just abused eunuch shui a few days ago. If he missed the Empress Dowager's birthday banquet today, then things would really get out of hand. Unless Long Fei Yi wanted to shed all pretenses of cordiality with Emperor Tianhui and start a coup, he wouldn't do such a thing. Logically speaking, the Empress Dowager was still an elder. Everyone was amiable on the surface, but Long Fei Yi was a junior. Their marriage had been arranged by the Empress Dowager, so it was impossible for him to miss the banquet without reason. Moreover, since Grand Concubine Yi wasn't going, Long Fei Yi had to show his face at least. Esteemed Wang Fei worries too much. What could happen to His Highness? Let's go, we should hurry and change our clothes and put on makeup. Perhaps His Highness is already on his way back. Zhao Mama was still very confident in her mistress. There were only 2 more hours before the banquet began, so Han Yunxi really did need to go make preparations. Unexpectedly, Long Fei Yi arrived before Han Yunxi even entered the Leisurely Cloud Pavilion. He usually liked to wear black, and when he was free, he would stay in the residence and not go out. Most of the time, he would wear white. Tonight he was going to attend the birthday banquet, so he was dressed in purple robes without much adornment. Still, it was this color that set off his innate elegance and nobility, as well as his acquired dignity, that made it hard for anyone to tear their eyes away. Han Yunxi turned to look at him and couldn't help but stare blankly again. In fact, Han Yunxi was not infatuated at all. She didn't even bother to look at Gu's devastatingly beautiful face. Perhaps, Long Fei Yi was her unavoidable calamity. In the face of Han Yunxi's silly expression, Long Fei Yi seemed helpless. He handed a big bag to Zhao Mama and instructed, "I'll wait at the door. Tidy her up before you come out." After he finished speaking, he sat down on the swing in the yard and waited. Han Yunxi stared at him blankly. She thought that he didn't seem to have any reaction to her taking the initiative last time. She even suspected that he was deliberately avoiding her after not seeing her for so many days. Who would have thought that this guy would act as if nothing had happened? In fact, he was still the same as before. Cold and aloof. "Princess Consort? We have to hurry, we can't afford to be slow." Granny Zhao gave her a gentle push before she came back to her senses. However, When the master and servant returned to the room and opened the big bag Long Fei Yi gave them, they immediately understood why he said to be slow. This was a very complete set of formal clothes. There were clothes, hair accessories, face accessories, shoes, and accessories. The clothes were the most conservative style, not revealing anything other than the neck. Although it was conservative, it was still dignified. The most important thing was that it was purple, the same color as Long Fei Ye's clothes. There was only one set of clothes, but there were many other sets of accessories. There were all kinds of styles and they were all expensive things. Seeing this, Han Yunxi and Zhao Mama were stunned. None of the things they had carefully selected could compare to Long Fei Ye's bag. Of course, even if these things couldn't compare to the ones Han Yunxi picked out, she was still very happy to accept them because they were gifts from Long Fei Yi. Princess Consort, this old servant has watched His Highness grow up and he has never picked out anything for a woman before. Zhao Mama was filled with emotion. Han Yunxi's face was filled with confidence. I am the first and I will also be the last. Zhao Mama laughed in her heart. She dared to guarantee with her life that this girl would not dare say these words in front of His Highness. After changing into her violet robes, Han Yunxi picked out a set of purple jade ornaments with a pink and purple jade ornament and inserted it into her hair. There was also a round pink and purple jade pendant hanging from her waist, simple and refreshing without losing its elegance. Han Yunxi came out in her purple clothes, just like the first time she came to the palace with him. She smiled and said, Your Highness, it's all packed. Please accept it. Long Fei Yi looked at her for a long time like before, but he did not say anything. However, this time he did not leave without saying a word. Rather, he walked over to her and took out a white jade crystal bracelet. This bracelet was crystal clear and as warm as water, without any impurities. It was covered in a faint layer of light, white with a hint of purple. It was so beautiful that it seemed like a dream. Here. He only said a single word, but Han Yunxi and Zhao Mama on the side were scared. This was a jade crystal stone. Jade crystal was one of the rarest stones in Cloud Realm continent. It was more valuable than gold, jadeite, or night luminescent pearls. Among them, this kind of white jade crystal with a hint of purple was the most valuable. The largest piece of white jade crystal ever found was only the size of a thumb. It had been made into a ring and worn on the hands of the Northern Dynasty's emperors. Legend had it that if a dead person held a piece of jade crystal in their mouth, it would prevent their bones from rotting away like a living person. Where did Long Fei Yi find such a large piece of jade crystal? It was enough to make a bracelet without a single flaw. If it wasn't valuable, then there would be no justice in the country. Could it be that he's been busy for the past few days because of this bracelet? Seeing Han Yunxi in a daze, Long Fei Yi took her hand and personally put it on her left hand. Was this for her? Her first gift? Han Yunxi assumed that Long Fei Yi would say something, but he didn't. He simply led her away without even asking about the medicine fan. That's it? He gave her a jade bracelet worth as much as an entire country with a single give? That was his personality. But she had to bring up the matter of the medicine fan, right? She had seriously told Zhao Mama to bring it with her. After thinking over the matter of the West Mountain, the only way left was to use the medicine fan to negotiate with the Empress Dowager. On the way, Han Yunxi couldn't help but say, I brought the medicine fan with me. Long Fei Yi only replied, There's a lot of people in the palace tonight, so it'll be useful if you bring it along. Bring it to fan yourself? So he didn't have any designs on the medicine fan? Han Yunxi grew curious. This guy told her not to worry, but she'd like to see how he planned to deal with the West Mountain matter. By the time Han Yunxi and Long Fei Yi reached the Empress Dowager's birthday banquet hall, the banquet had already begun. Everyone was rising to their feet with Emperor Tianhui and singing their congratulations to the Empress Dowager. That's right, they were late. When the eunuchs at the entrance saw Long Fei Yi and Han Yunxi walk in hand, then saw the crowd singing their congratulations, they didn't know whether to announce their arrival or not. Zhao Mama strode forward and called out, Your Highness Duke of Qin Wangfei has arrived. Her loud voice actually drowned out the rest of the voices in the hall, causing everyone to stop. Inside the hall, the Empress Dowager and Emperor Tianhui were seated in the highest seats in the north. 3 rows of seats on the east and west sides of the hall were filled with members of the imperial family, aristocratic families, and civil and military officials according to their ranks. The hall was packed to the brim. At this moment, all 100 or so people were looking towards the entrance. Your Highness Duke of Qin, you really came at the right time. Under the gazes of the crowd, Long Fei Yi walked in hand with Han Yunqi. For some reason, the musicians suddenly stopped, leaving the hall so silent that even a pin drop could be heard. Long Fei Ye's purple robes were noble and regal, while Han Yunqi's was dignified and dignified. One was handsome to the skies, while the other was beautiful enough to topple cities. The two of them walked hand in hand on the red carpet like a perfect match. More than half of the women present saw them with red eyes and stifled hearts. Those who didn't wear purple all regretted it, while those who did were itching to rush over and stand by His Highness Duke of Qin's side. Han Yunqi. Ah, Han Yunqi. Why is it that you're the only one in the world who has the honor of standing shoulder to shoulder with the Duke of Qin in purple? But we can't even get a glimpse of the Duke of Qin? The women's attention was all on Han Yunqi, but the men were more concerned with the fact that they were late. Emperor Tianhui and His Highness Duke of Qin had long been embroiled in a storm before the banquet. Who knew that His Highness Duke of Qin would be late? Just what was going on? What was he hinting at? Was His Highness Duke of Qin really here today to offer his congratulations? After bowing, Long Fei Yi said, "Musicians, please continue." Only then did everyone remember that they hadn't finished singing their greetings. They didn't know if the musicians would run into misfortune after the banquet, but if they didn't hurry to smooth things over, Emperor Tianhui would probably kill them on the spot. As the music began, Long Fei Yi and Han Yunqi moved to stand on Emperor Tianhui's right. Han Yunqi saw that Long Fei Yi hadn't opened his mouth, so she naturally shut her mouth. Suddenly, Han Yunqi felt a faint killing intent and looked towards the foreign guests. She saw Chu Qingge sitting between Duanmu Bei and Chu Tianin, glaring at her with hatred. Han Yunqi magnanimously returned a small smile, but it only angered Chu Qingge so much that her face turned black. She unconsciously bit her lip and even forgot to sing her greetings. This wasn't only seen by Mu Ling-er, but also by the Empress Dowager. Han Yunqi inadvertently glanced towards Mu Ling-er, who immediately averted her gaze and pretended not to see a thing. With Han Yunqi and Duanmu Bei's interference, who would be in the mood to continue singing their greetings? Amidst the music, everyone was preoccupied with their own thoughts. Most of them were still staring at the pair, but Long Fei Yi was as cold as ever, while Han Yunqi was as calm as ever. Once the greetings were over and everyone was seated, Emperor Tianhui couldn't wait to strike back at Long Fei Yi. "Someone come, bring out Zhen's 6 jugs of drunken flower wine." His Highness Duke of Qin and Qin Wangfei arrived late, punished them with 3 jugs each to apologize to the Empress Dowager. Emperor Tianhui was still brooding over the matter of eunuch Shui. Leaving aside the fact that Long Fei Yi had made a mistake tonight, even if he hadn't, Emperor Tianhui would still find a chance to suppress Long Fei Ye's arrogance in front of the imperial clan, nobles, and civil and military officials. The Empress Dowager sat calmly on the ground, her face full of benevolence and kindness. She had no intention of saying "no need." After all, the drunken flower wine had the word drunken in it, making it easy to get drunk. Even the best drinkers would get drunk after 3 jugs. Perhaps Long Fei Yi could hold out, but what about Han Yunqi? Han Yunqi had competed in drinking at the plum blossom meet, but the plum blossom wine she won was far inferior to this drunken flower wine. This was Emperor Tianhui's way of deliberately making things difficult for them. Everyone assumed that Long Fei Yi would refuse, but he didn't. He only said, "I'll drink Han Yunqi's in her place." So speaking, he picked up a jug of wine and threw his head back to gulp down jug after jug. Han Yunqi's heart ached at the sight and she wanted to steal the jug for herself. But Long Fei Ye's alcohol tolerance soon exceeded everyone's expectations. He wasn't drunk. There wasn't even a drop of wine on his body. He was completely sober. Many thanks to Imperial Brother for the wine. Emperor Tianhui was in a bad mood. He put on a fake smile and was about to continue when the Empress Dowager stopped him. Chapter 308. The Empress Dowager had long known that Emperor Tianhui would make a fuss over the birthday banquet to make things difficult for the Duke of Qin. She supported his decision as well. But the banquet had just begun. How was she supposed to celebrate if things went on like this? She was still waiting to receive her congratulatory gifts. Moreover, Emperor Tianhui had been too impatient to let the matter go from the start. He'd lost his bearing as a ruler. "Emperor, 6 jugs of wine is quite a lot. Let the Duke of Qin rest." If Grand Concubine E sees this, she'll feel distressed. The Empress Dowager's benevolent expression made those who didn't know better think she doted on Long Fei Yi. Emperor Tianhui calmed down and realized that he'd been too impatient and lost his bearing. He smiled and said, Muhu is just biased. Aken never said the Duke of Qin should keep drinking 6 jugs of wine as punishment. Zhan has a good reason to send out troops. Emperor Tianhui purposely emphasized the words, a good reason to send out troops. 6 jugs of drunken flower wine wasn't enough to make Long Fei Yi drunk. He had even prepared more ruthless moves to play with. This time, he wasn't here to celebrate the Empress Dowager's birthday, but to use this chance to crush Long Fei Yi in front of all of Tianning's power and Western Zhou's crown prince. He wanted the world to know that Tianning's imperial power wasn't to be challenged. Even Long Fei Yi had to submit to him. Eunuch Shui's matter was nothing more than Long Fei Yi's one-sided show of force. Long Fei Yi allowed the Empress Dowager and Emperor Tianhui to echo each other without saying a word. Soon enough, he sat back down with a cold expression. Seeing this, the Empress Dowager wanted to say a few more words, but stopped. Even though it was Long Fei Yi who'd been punished, they didn't feel any satisfaction at all. Instead, they felt like their hot faces had been pressed against someone's cold butt. The Empress Dowager shot a look at Emperor Tianhui. She didn't care what he planned to do, but she wasn't planning to let Long Fei Yi off this time, either. Let Long Fei Yi be arrogant for a bit longer. Soon enough, she'd show him who's boss. Although Long Fei Yi was not drunk, Han Yunxi was still worried. She secretly watched him for a while before she was sure that he was really not drunk. She couldn't help but guess how good this guy's alcohol tolerance was. Had he ever been drunk in his life? What was it like to be drunk? After the congratulatory words were sung, the solemn ceremonial music turned into festive and lively music. Singers and dancers went on stage, and the hall became lively all of a sudden. At this time, the birthday celebration officially began. The first person to attend was naturally the emperor. The Empress Dowager naturally looked forward to the gift from her son the most. At this moment, she was waiting with a smile. It was rare for her to smile so sincerely. She saw the eunuch carrying a lump of something, which was covered by a large piece of red silk cloth. What was that? He could tell that the situation was not simple. The Empress Dowager couldn't help but laugh. Emperor, are you still playing riddles with me? What is this? Emperor Tianhui personally undid the red silk. Muhu, Aken found this to relieve your boredom. I wish you good fortune, longevity, and good health. The object in the eunuch's arms was none other than a small Persian kitten with snow-white fur and mysterious blue eyes. It wasn't strange at all to Han Yunxi, but it was one of the rare animals in Cloud Realm continent. As soon as the eunuch carried the kitten out, many of the people present began to exclaim in surprise and praise. This was definitely a good chance to flatter Emperor Tianhui and make the Empress Dowager happy. Even Western Zhou's crown prince, Duanmu Bei, spoke up. I heard that this object came from overseas. It's something that only Emperor Tianhui could ask for. The Minister of Appointments, Lord Su, quickly added, isn't that so? I heard that Northern Li's emperor once offered a large reward for this object in order to make the empress happy. It's something he could only ask for. His Majesty's filial piety is a model for all of Tianning's citizens. Someone from the Ministry of Rites spoke up as well. Esteemed Empress Dowager, His Majesty's filial piety is your good fortune. It's a great fortune for all of Tianning's citizens. Marquis Pingnan followed up with flattery. If Han Yunxi was listening to all this flattery, she'd probably laugh coldly. But right now, she was doing her best to press Lil Thing into her sleeve so it wouldn't poke its head out. Ever since she'd returned to the Duke of Qin's estate, especially the leisurely Cloud Pavilion, Lil Thing had grown more and more timid. It often hid itself to sleep and didn't dare to come out. What was Lil Thing so excited about in such a grand occasion? Han Yunxi's expression didn't change, but her hands kept pressing and pressing. In the end, she had no choice but to reach her sleeve towards Long Fei Yi. In an instant, Lil Thing quieted down and didn't move at all. Long Fei Yi was its natural enemy. Lil Thing curled up in her sleeve with a foul expression. It had finally caught a whiff of the cat scent and wanted to take a peek. How could its master be so bad? Fine, it could only remember this place and come back another day to steal the cat. The Empress Dowager picked up the Persian cat and liked it very much. She cradled it in her arms and stroked its fur. Emperor, you're so considerate. So considerate. She'd wanted such a plaything for a long time but couldn't find it. She was about to give up, but the Emperor really found it for her. Excellent, excellent. The Empress Dowager was in a good mood. This first gift was a big surprise, making her look forward to the following gifts even more. As the Empress Dowager, she could have anything she wanted, but she just had to enjoy the surprise of receiving gifts. Of course, the gifts had to enter her eyes. Even at the birthday banquet, she didn't accept all the congratulatory gifts. It was also because of this that the people who came to congratulate her made many preparations to deal with all kinds of situations. Amidst the flattery, Qin Wangrong stood up. Esteemed Empress Dowager, this subject brother wishes your phoenix body good health and happiness as great as the East Sieve. Qin Wangrong, quickly rise. The Empress Dowager personally stood up to support him. Qin Wangrong was the previous emperor's good brother and had doubts about the Duke of Qin's background. Between the emperor and the Duke of Qin, he had to choose the emperor. However, the Empress Dowager hoped that he could support the crown prince. Qin Wangrong presented a brocade box and said with a smile, "To express my sincerity, I wish esteemed Empress Dowager good health and happiness as great as the East Sea." The Empress Dowager opened the box and saw a large luminous pearl inside. She needed both hands to hold it. Everyone was stunned at the sight. Luminous pearls were already rare objects, much less such a large one. The Empress Dowager was extremely satisfied. She held it in her hands and exclaimed in surprise, "Warm as jade, bright as the moon, and as nimble as water. This is the head of all luminous pearls." Exactly. This is the moonlit luminous pearl, Qin Wangrong said with a smile. Hearing this, the Empress Dowager was even happier. She'd received 2 such rare gifts in a row. It looked like she'd have plenty of surprises today. According to seniority, it was time for the Duke of Qin and Qin Wangfei to attend the birthday banquet. This was not only the Empress Dowager's most anticipated arrival, but everyone else present as well. Since Emperor Tianhui and Qin Wangrong had presented such a large gift, wouldn't it be a loss of face if the Duke of Qin didn't present something rare? His Highness Duke of Qin had always been generous with his gifts. What kind of treasure would he bring out this time? Judging from the current situation and Emperor Tianhui's attitude, the Empress Dowager wouldn't let them off so easily even if His Highness Duke of Qin did. Here comes the show. Qin Wangrong hadn't even sat down before everyone's gazes rested on Long Fei Yi and Han Yunqi. Han Yunqi's mouth twitched. Actually, she had no idea what the Long Fei Yi would present. She assumed it was the medicine fan, but he told her to fan herself instead. Seeing the Empress Dowager's expectant gaze, Han Yunqi really wanted to take out the medicine fan to fan herself and show off. She was hesitating over whether or not to take it out when Long Fei Yi stood up. She quickly rose to her feet as well. Was he going to present a gift? Unexpectedly, Long Fei Yi personally poured 2 cups of wine, one for himself and one for Han Yunqi. What was this? May the Empress Dowager's phoenix body be in good health. This was Long Fei Ye's toast. He raised his cup in a toast and drained it in one gulp, then he sat back down. There were only words of congratulations, but no gift. For a moment, silence fell upon the scene. Everyone was stunned and gaping in disbelief. How could Long Fei Yi do something like this? Both the Empress Dowager and Emperor Tianhui's faces had turned black. Everyone was anticipating his gift, including the Empress Dowager. After all, the Empress Dowager had even prepared an excuse to refuse. She wanted to seize the chance to humiliate Long Fei, but Long Fei didn't give her anything. He wasn't even willing to say any congratulatory words. Was the phoenix body in good health enough to send her off? This was the rhythm of rejecting others before being rejected. Could it be that Han Yunqi hadn't returned his congratulations yet, so he didn't present his gift? Han Yunqi had become the hope of many people. Even the Empress Dowager's shrewd gaze rested on Han Yunqi. She refused to believe that Long Fei Yi had the guts or the skills to make her look bad in front of everyone. It had to be known that making her look bad was making the emperor look bad. What exactly did Long Fei Yi want to do? With his strength, could he really contend against the emperor? Did he grow his wings? Did he not cause enough trouble with eunuch Shui? Did he have to continue causing trouble? Actually, Han Yunqi was as surprised as everyone else. She didn't know what the consequences of Long Fei Yi doing this would be, but she liked this method too much. It was ruthless and sincere enough. He really didn't want to give anything. This fellow did beautifully. Under everyone's gaze, Han Yunxi's smile was resplendent. She copied Long Fei Yi and raised her wine cup, gracefully wishing the Empress Dowager a happy birthday. May the Empress Dowager's phoenix body be in good health. When the husband sang, how could the wife not follow? After she finished speaking, she was just like Long Fei Yi, gracefully sitting back down. Just like that, the birthday congratulations were over, but there was no gift. The stillness in the hall grew even more pronounced. A sinister look flickered past the Empress Dowager's eyes as she felt humiliated at being played for a fool. Even if no one here dared to laugh at her, she couldn't tolerate Long Fei Ye's impolite provocation and humiliation. Her hands, which had been resting on the armrest, clenched into fists. If she didn't get her revenge, how was she supposed to establish her authority in the imperial clan? Naturally, she wouldn't question Long Fei Yi on the spot. That would be the same as asking for a gift, which would be shameful. She looked towards Emperor Tianhui, wanting to tell him that he could make his move now. Currently, Emperor Tianhui was staring at Long Fei Yi with narrowed eyes. Long Fei Yi was simply here to show off his power. Wasn't he thinking too highly of himself? He'd given him 30% out of courtesy, but if he thought that 30% was enough to deal with 70%, then he was too naive. Emperor Tianhui was about to launch an attack when a prominent and influential figure stood up. Chapter 309. Such a grand birthday banquet was filled with prominent and influential figures, but the one who stood up right now was definitely the most special of them all. In Tianning, nobles didn't participate in politics. Those who did weren't nobles, but this man was both a noble and an influential general. His name was Bailey Yuanlong, born of Tianning's largest noble family, the Bailey clan. He was nearing 50 years of age and was a great general who commanded Tianning's navy. Tianning had 3 great generals in charge of the infantry, cavalry, and navy respectively. General Mu commanded the largest infantry force, while Bailey Yuanlong commanded the most special navy. General Mu and Great General Bailey resided in the capital, while the Great General of Cavalry was stationed at the three-way battlefield. He hadn't returned this time. The navy was the most special because Tianning was the only country in Cloud Realm continent that had a navy. Northern Li and Western Zhou didn't have one. Moreover, Tianning's navy was a regular army that Bailey Yuanlong had single-handedly raised in his youth. Unlike General Mu's illustrious military exploits, Bailey Yuanlong's navy had never been sent out before. However, they received the most military pay from the imperial court each year. None of the civil and military officials dared to object to this, because they all knew that the late emperor had raised this navy to deal with Northern Li. Like Tianning, Northern Li's eastern border was an endless coastline. If necessary, Tianning wouldn't let Northern Li's eastern border go. Thus, once war broke out, this navy would be the Tianning emperor's trump card, the key to turning defeat into victory. Bailey Yuanlong had always kept a low profile and only showed his face once or twice a year. Why was he standing up at a time like this? Everyone was bewildered. General Bailey, is something the matter? The Empress Dowager had always been polite to this naval general personally appointed by the late emperor. This general naturally wishes to congratulate esteemed Empress Dowager on her birthday, Bailey Yuanlong replied. He wants to congratulate her? The Empress Dowager's phoenix body trembled as she stiffened. For a moment, the silence in the great hall was indescribable. Everyone subconsciously held their breaths as they grew nervous. What did Bailey Yuanlong mean by this? Of course he had to attend the birthday banquet, but it wasn't his turn yet. His Highness Duke of Qin had just finished his birthday banquet, and he was already standing up. Could it be that he also wanted to? Everyone trembled with fear. They wanted to guess, but they didn't dare to think too much about it. Some things, even if they thought about it, were treasonous and heinous crimes. Emperor Tianhui's face was grave and stern as he stared unblinkingly at Bailey Yuanlong. Long Fei Yi, on the other hand, was aloof and indifferent, as if he didn't care at all. Under everyone's gazes, Bailey Yuanlong personally poured the wine. Was he going to propose a toast like Long Fei Yi? Unease began to spread in the Empress Dowager's heart. She wanted nothing more than to go up and stop Bailey Yuanlong, but she couldn't. She sat solemnly, watching, her heart in a whirl. Bailey Yuanlong walked out with a cup of wine in hand. Although he'd never been to a real battlefield, his austere aura was comparable to General Mu's. He was old but vigorous, his every step filled with power as he walked to the Empress Dowager. His posture made everyone's hearts beat faster. Many of them even stopped breathing. The Empress Dowager nervously clenched her hands into fists, forgetting the pain from her fingernails pricking into her palms. Bailey Yuanlong stopped in front of the Empress Dowager and bowed in a neither servile nor overbearing manner. This soldier offers congratulations to esteemed Empress Dowager on her birthday. May esteemed Empress Dowager's phoenix body be in good health. The Empress Dowager was still wearing a smile, but it was completely stiff. She looked calm on the surface, but her heart was already in turmoil. She couldn't guess what Bailey Yuanlong's actions meant. Would he be like Long Fei Yi and only offer his congratulations without a gift? Or would he offer up a gift afterwards? At this point, it didn't matter what Bailey Yuanlong's gift was, but whether he had one at all. If he did, then his action of cutting the queue was a silent protest against Long Fei Ye's actions. It was the strongest support for the Empress Dowager and Emperor Tianhui. If he didn't, then, the Empress Dowager couldn't keep thinking. She was too nervous. The first time she'd ever felt so nervous at her own birthday banquet. She waited for Bailey Yuanlong to offer up his gift, but no matter how long she waited, Bailey Yuanlong didn't say a word. He simply stood there, leaving the Empress Dowager in an awkward position. Was there really no gift? The Empress Dowager couldn't believe it, much less Emperor Tianhui. He coughed lightly to remind the Empress Dowager, who said, "General Bailey may dispense with the formalities." Was he going to dispense with the gifts after that? All eyes were on the scene, but Bailey Yuanlong simply returned to his seat behind Bailey Yuanlong, mirroring Long Fei Yi and Han Yunqi's actions. That's it? It's over? There's only congratulations, but no gift? Thus, Bailey Yuanlong followed the Duke of Qin in offering a toast. In other words, Bailey Yuanlong wasn't here to offer his congratulations, but to publicly declare his position. He and his tens of thousands of naval troops were Long Fei Ye's subordinates. One of Tianning's 3 armies was actually Long Fei Ye's forces. Time seemed to stop as the Empress Dowager stared at Bailey Yuanlong, gaping. Emperor Tianhui was caught off guard as well. For a moment, he couldn't accept reality. He always thought he had the 3 armies firmly in his hands. Even the strongest of the 3 armies, General Mu's estate, was under his control. He never expected Bailey Yuanlong to be one of Long Fei Ye's men. The most frightening thing about a coup was a military coup. Long Fei Ye's move was simply pulling the firewood from under the cauldron. He was using Bailey Yuanlong to tell everyone present that he, Long Fei Yi, had the guts and strength to stand up to Emperor Tianhui as an equal. Emperor Tianhui had always given him some leeway, but the leeway in his hands was enough to fight against the emperor's leeway. The birthday banquet still had to continue. The congratulations had just begun, but the various factions present were already racking their brains. Should they give away the gifts they'd prepared? If they did, they'd be standing on Emperor Tianhui's side. If they didn't, they'd be standing on His Highness Duke of Qin's side. It was time to make a stand. Who would be the first after Bailey Yuanlong? Some were nervous, some were afraid, while others were itching to make a move. Still, nobody expected Crown Prince Long Tianma to be the first to step forward. The Crown Prince's repeated illnesses had long caused the Crown Prince faction to lose power. Moreover, his relapse had caused such a huge uproar. Smart people could tell that Emperor Tianhui was using the Crown Prince's life to suppress Han Yunqi. Although he was the Crown Prince and had returned alive, he couldn't win the Emperor's favor. He should be resentful, hating and giving up on himself, but he was the first to step forward to protect the face of the Empress Dowager and Emperor. Imperial Grandmother, take a look at what your grandson has brought you. Long Tianma personally offered up a large stalk of Lingji mushroom. It was as big as a palm and as red as fresh blood. As soon as it appeared, it drew the attention of the crowd. Someone exclaimed in surprise, "Your Highness Crown Prince, is this the real deal?" Impudence! This Crown Prince is showing filial piety to Imperial Grandmother. How could it be a fake? Long Tianma scolded unhappily. "Your Highness Crown Prince, this must be the rumored blood Lingji mushroom that can cure all kinds of illnesses," someone asked nervously. That's exactly it. Long Tianma had been searching for this item while hiding in the Eastern Palace every day. He never expected to find it on his way back after recovering from his illness in Medical City. Seeing Long Tianma nod his head, the crowd burst into an uproar. Blood Lingji mushroom was the best of all medicines. No matter what kind of illness it was, it could cure all illnesses as soon as it appeared. It was even more valuable than the Persian cat and the night moon pearl and was hailed as the #1 medicine in Cloud Realm continent. Not to mention the others, even Han Yunxi and Gu Beiyue were shocked. Some medicines only had 1 or 2 stocks, so they were gone once they were used up. Alright, it wasn't just Han Yunxi. Even Lil Thing in her sleeve was beginning to stir. It didn't know what was going on outside, but it thought that the Imperial Palace was a great place. There were so many good things, so it had to make a trip here myself. With a single stalk of blood Lingji, Long Tianma had pulled back the stage for the birthday celebration. He presented the gift and said respectfully, "Imperial Grandmother, this is a genuine blood Lingji mushroom. Your grandson wishes for Imperial Grandmother's longevity to be as long as the southern mountains and as deep as the eastern sea." Long Tianma didn't want to take it out at all. If possible, he'd prefer to remain neutral at the banquet, because he was still too weak to offend either his imperial father or imperial uncle Qin. However, in the end, whether it was his imperial father or imperial uncle Qin, in the face of this great opportunity, he had to stand up and express his intentions to his imperial father. Only by obtaining his imperial father's favor could he become stronger and have the power to seize the throne. In the struggle for imperial power, there was nothing more than endurance. Long Tianma's voice was like a great bell, echoing throughout the hall. Although his influence was far inferior to Bailey Yuanlong's, he'd at least turned the tables for Emperor Tianhui. The Empress Dowager was so moved that she couldn't speak, while Emperor Tianhui finally gave Long Tianma a look of appreciation. Seeing this, Long Fei Yi didn't budge. It was obvious that he didn't think much of Long Tianma. Zhao Mama secretly stepped forward and murmured, "Esteemed Wang Fei, you're regretting it now, aren't you? Don't save him next time. He's just an abandoned pawn who doesn't know what's good for him." Han Yunxi smiled. Even Zhao Mama could tell that Long Tianma had been tricked by Emperor Tianhui in the relapse of his old ailment case. Although they stood on opposite sides, Han Yunxi didn't dislike Long Tianma. At the very least, he was the strongest of all her patients. No matter what happened, he'd never given up on himself. As for saving him? Fine, she'd been forced to do so. There was nothing to regret. As soon as the Crown Prince appeared, one person followed closely behind him. That person was none other than the second Imperial Prince, Long Tianqing. He was the son of noble consort Xiao, the daughter of the Prime Minister of the Left, Xiao Jingxin. As the Crown Prince's faction grew weaker by the day, the second Imperial Prince's faction grew stronger and stronger. There were even rumors that General Mu was part of the second Imperial Prince's faction. Naturally, the second Imperial Prince wasn't to be outdone by the Crown Prince's performance. But when he walked past Long Fei Yi and Han Yunxi, he actually snorted at them. His movements were so obvious that everyone in the hall saw it. Child, it was understandable that he was protecting the Empress Dowager and currying favor with the Emperor. But stepping on the Duke of Qin to curry favor with the Emperor was a huge mistake. Chapter 310. Long Tianqing's disdainful snort left everyone dumbstruck. Nobody expected him to be so arrogant. Leaving aside the fact that he'd give the Empress Dowager and Emperor Tianhui some face, his soft snort of praiseworthy courage was the greatest show of support for Emperor Tianhui. As for His Highness Duke of Qin, it was the greatest provocation. Silence fell upon the crowd. It wasn't clear what they were thinking, but Han Yunxi was full of admiration for this fellow. He really had guts. Even she didn't dare to treat Long Fei Yi with such disdain. To treat someone with disdain, one had to be more outstanding and stronger than them. Otherwise, what could they use to justify their disdain? Emperor Tianhui's lips quirked up into a smile as if he was satisfied with the second imperial son's actions. The Empress Dowager grew interested as well. Long Tianqing only gave a soft snort before continuing to walk forward. He was dressed in icy blue palace robes and had an imposing appearance. His steps were vigorous, and he was in high spirits. However, everyone's focus wasn't on him, but Long Fei Yi. What would Long Fei Ye's reaction be? Under everyone's gaze, Long Fei Ye's expression was cold as he stood unmoving. His deep, dark eyes were as calm as a pool of frozen spring water, making it impossible for anyone to see through him. Despite knowing they couldn't see through him, many people still stared at him, hoping to catch a glimpse of his face or his eyes. While everyone was focused on Long Fei Yi, Long Tianqing had almost reached the Empress Dowager. But for some reason, he felt a sudden pain in his foot. He lost his footing and fell forward, crashing to the ground with a loud crash as the things in his hands clattered to the ground. This time, he finally became the focus of everyone's attention. The high-spirited imperial son was now sprawled on the ground, his face to the ground with his limbs spread wide apart. He was in a sorry state. Over 100 people were sitting around looking at a man sprawled on the ground. It was easy to imagine the scene. Long Tianqing quickly scrambled to his feet and opened the gift box on the ground, only to see that the precious porcelain inside had long been smashed to pieces. "Who tripped me? Accompany me with a congratulatory gift." He was flustered and exasperated, vexed and fierce. His nose was covered in dust as he stomped his feet, truly looking like a clown. It would have been better if he hadn't said that. Once he said that, Han Yunqi immediately laughed out loud. Han Yunqi's laughter immediately caused everyone to burst into laughter. Other than Long Fei Yi, who else could it be? Was Long Tianqing really that dumb, or was he just pretending to be dumb? It didn't matter if he was pretending to be a fool or if he was really a fool. This kind of childish behavior was really unbecoming of a prince. Amidst the laughter, Long Fei Yi glanced at Han Yunqi but didn't say anything. If he had really made a move, would it have been as simple as making Long Tianqing fall? Everyone thought it was him, but in fact, it was Han Yunqi's doing. Hearing the laughter, Long Tianqing finally realized that he had lost his composure. The wisest thing for him to do was to stand up and continue walking forward without opening the gift box. He'd only prepared one gift this time, an extremely precious piece of ancient porcelain. Now that he'd broken it, where was he supposed to find a second one? What should he do now? If he kept walking forward, he wouldn't have a gift. At this moment, a sweet and gentle voice spoke up. "Second Imperial Prince, don't worry. Even if you don't have a gift, esteemed Empress Dowager won't blame you as long as you're sincere." Following the source of the voice, they saw a woman in her early 20s. She was as delicate as a flower and as delicate as jade, gentle and dainty. Her full smile was especially gentle and beautiful. This woman was none other than Bailey Yuanlong's youngest daughter, Bailey Mingxiang. Although she was the youngest, she wasn't young anymore. She'd long reached marriageable age and had countless suitors, but she refused to marry. If this was before, it wouldn't have been a big deal. But now that the Duke of Qin and Bailey Yuanlong hadn't brought a gift, it was the greatest insult to Long Tianqing. See, even Emperor Tianhui and the Empress Dowager were glaring at her. Han Yunqi looked over as well and discovered that this woman's beauty was different from the others. Her eyes were filled with intelligence. She was gentle and magnanimous, like a needle hidden in silk floss. Compared to the other noble ladies, she was definitely outstanding. "Bailey Mingxiang, there's no need for you here." The second imperial prince was about to explode when Emperor Tianhui cut him off. "Enough, why aren't you withdrawing yet?" "Imperial father." Long Tianqing grew anxious. "Withdraw." Emperor Tianhui was furious. Long Tianqing was very unwilling, but he had no choice but to withdraw. But when he came back, he gave another light snort at Long Fei Yi and Han Yunqi. This time, it wasn't a disdainful snort, but one meant to vent his anger. Finally, Long Fei Yi looked straight at Long Tianqing. A single glance was enough to make Long Tianqing feel the temperature drop around them. He'd already thrown caution to the wind. After today's birthday banquet, his imperial father and the Duke of Qin would definitely be irreconcilable. Naturally, he'd use his father's favorite method to express his stance. But now that he saw the Duke of Qin's eyes, he began to regret his decision. Long Tianqing fled back to his seat. As soon as he sat down, the left Prime Minister, Xiao Jingxin, stood up and raised his cup to congratulate the Empress Dowager. This old official congratulates esteemed Empress Dowager on her birthday. May esteemed Empress Dowager's phoenix body be in good health. So speaking, he downed his cup of wine and sat back down without offering any gifts. His actions were so fast that everyone present, including the Empress Dowager and Emperor Tianhui, couldn't react in time. After all, This left Prime Minister Xiao Zhengxin was the second imperial prince's maternal grandfather. How could he? He's actually one of His Highness Duke of Qin's men. That's too surprising. Soon enough, another official stood up and raised his cup to congratulate the Empress Dowager, but without any gifts. This official was the Minister of Revenue, Zhao Ziling, a well-known member of the Second Imperial Prince's faction. Afterwards, various high-ranking officials such as Grand Preceptor Li Shui, Junior Tutor Lin Baodong, and Grand Scholar Ouyang Ming all rose to their seats to offer their congratulations. The Second Imperial Prince himself was flabbergasted, because these people were all in his faction as well. How could this be? Long Tianqing finally regretted his actions. He shouldn't have been so impulsive today. Without the support of these influential officials, how was he supposed to fight against the Crown Prince or the other imperial princes? How was he supposed to fight for the throne? By now, Emperor Tianhui's face had turned completely black. The power and connections in the hands of these influential officials and the departments they controlled were all very important, especially the left prime minister. This was not only a fatal blow to the second imperial prince, but also a great hindrance to him. Long Fei Ye's actions were too ironic and humiliating. He glared at Long Fei Yi, just as Long Fei Yi happened to look back. The two brothers' silent contest left everyone in the hall silent, too nervous to even breathe loudly. But at this moment, people still stood up to offer their congratulations. Duke Jinghua, Marquis Pingbei, Luo City's Rong clan, Zhe City's Feng clan, and so on all stood in place to raise their cups of wine. Their gifts were clearly on the table, but they refused to take them out. Where did these people get the gall to provoke the imperial clan? Wasn't it all thanks to Long Fei Yi? The Empress Dowager's face alternated between white and green, looking as ugly as it could be. She had clearly seen these people arrive with gifts, but none of them had presented a single one. She hadn't even heard much of their words of congratulations. A perfectly good birthday banquet had been ruined by Long Fei Yi. This was simply a coup d'état. Emperor Tianhui was so angry that his chest heaved. Although there were a few high-ranking officials who had stood up to oppose the Duke of Qin and presented gifts after gifts, there were still more influential officials on his and the Empress Dowager's side than Long Fei Ye's. But no amount of support could pacify his furious heart. That was because the imperial clan couldn't tolerate even the slightest provocation. But tonight, he'd counted a total of 27 influential officials who'd provoked him. This was his humiliation, but also Long Fei Ye's terrifying bargaining chip. Long Fei Yi had used facts to prove that he had the skills to oppose the imperial clan. The birthday banquet was still going on, but most of the people were still presenting gifts. But it didn't matter who gave what anymore. Emperor Tianhui stared at Long Fei Yi the entire time. He truly regretted that he hadn't exterminated Long Fei Yi when he was young. After all, he was almost 20 years old when his little brother was still in swaddling clothes. If he'd had the foresight back then, the late emperor wouldn't have granted him a special pardon. But Long Fei remained as steady as Mount Tai despite raising such a huge wave with one hand. His expression was stoic, like a high and lofty spectator who could see through each and every one of them. Currently, he was looking at General Mu with interest. General Mu had just retreated from presenting gifts to the Empress Dowager. His gift was a very ordinary one that didn't offend or curry favor. It was obvious that he was a neutral party. Han Yunxi sat quietly by Long Fei Ye's side. She finally realized that she'd underestimated Long Fei Ye's skills. Actually, he could have forced Emperor Tianhui to release Long Fei Yi even without her help when he was under house arrest. She'd even foolishly assumed that he'd set his sights on the medicine fan. How stupid of her. She stared at Long Fei Ye's chiseled profile and realized for the first time that she couldn't get enough of him. Just the sight of his face was enough to make her heart pound. Finally, all of Tianning's nobles finished giving their congratulations. Now it was time for the foreign guests. The foreign guests who'd witnessed a smokeless battle were still in a daze. They'd all heard of Tianning's Duke of Qin's fame, but this was their first time witnessing his skills. He really wasn't to be trifled with. Chu Qingga's gaze hadn't left Long Fei Yi since the beginning. Beneath her icy exterior was a heart that was about to burn. She'd always known that this man was as valiant and mighty as a god, but after witnessing his strength with her own eyes, she wanted nothing more than to prostrate herself at his feet. "Big Bro, we shouldn't give gifts either, right?" she asked in a low voice. Big Bro had been angry with her ever since he rescued her from the inn that day. He'd told her that she shouldn't have stirred up trouble in Tianning's capital city. She was full of grievances and simply refused to talk to him. But now she couldn't help but speak up. That's not something we can decide, Chu Tianyin said indifferently. Chu Tianyin remarked mildly. Although he'd been stunned by Long Fei as well, his attention was still on Han Yunqi. His serious gaze seemed to be searching for something on Han Yunqi's body. At this moment Mu Ling stood up from nearby. She had come as a representative of Medicine City. Chapter 3:11. Actually, Mu Ling didn't have the right to represent Medicine City this time. Last time, she'd gone missing while bringing medicine to Medical City to deal with the poison beast. Everyone was waiting for her to show up, but she never showed her face in Medical City. She even caused Medical City to search for her everywhere for the Mu clan. Leaving aside the Wang and Xie clans, even the Mu clan had plenty of complaints. This time, the three clans of Medicine City had come to an agreement that the powerful Mu clan would still have the right to represent Medicine City at the banquet. Mu Yingdong and Han Yunqi's relationship had been so unpleasant that he didn't want to see them for a while. Originally, he wanted the eldest young master of the Mu clan, Mu Lingyun, to attend the banquet, but Mu Ling refused to leave the capital and insisted on attending instead. In the end, Mu Yingdong had no choice but to compromise. It wasn't appropriate for a little girl to represent Medicine City at a national banquet, but Mu Ling's talents in medicine were well known throughout Cloud Realm continent. Her status as a genius pharmacist was still acceptable at such a grand occasion. Mu Yingdong personally gave Mu Ling his gift and told her to take good care of it. She had to say a few words of congratulations before sending it out at the banquet. The three great clans of Medicine City had agreed on the gift together. It was a life-saving pill from the medicine forest. Although it was called a medicinal pill, it wasn't refined, but grown from medicinal trees. Each tree would produce a single life-saving pill every 30 years. It could protect a person's heart and vital energy when their life was in danger and buy time for doctors to treat them. Such a grand gift was both a show of sincerity and faith for Medicine City, and a sign of good relations with the Mu clan. Mu Yingdong was secretly colluding with Juni Xie, but on the surface, he wanted to get on good terms with Emperor Tianhui. After Han Yunqi and Long Fei Yi tricked him, he stood on Emperor Tianhui's side. Seeing Mu Ling stand up, the vexed Empress Dowager finally pulled herself together. She knew that the relationship between Medicine City and Tianning wasn't bad. She also knew that Medicine City's congratulatory gift would definitely be stunning. The foreign guests all maintained a neutral stance and sent gifts as usual. They wouldn't interfere with Tianning's internal strife. This was especially true for a power as complex as Medicine City. A single representative wouldn't be able to decide Medicine City's stance. The Empress Dowager was very confident that Mu Linger would give her a big gift. She finally had some expectations. Emperor Tianhui grew self-confident as well. He refused to believe that Long Fei Yi could even rope in foreign powers. He wanted Long Fei Yi to know that he was the true master of Tianning. Naturally, the foreign guests would only recognize him. Previously, a few foreign guests had sent gifts, but their influence couldn't compare to Medicine City's. Now that Medicine City's people had stood up, he planned to show off to Long Fei Yi. As a matter of fact, Mu Ling hadn't even revealed her identity before Emperor Tianhui spoke up first. Is this the Mu clan's famous genius pharmacist, Miss Ling Any other representative would be overwhelmed by the favor, but Mu Ling remained calm. Exactly so. Why didn't the Mu clan head come with you? Emperor Tianhui had long known that Mu Yingdong wasn't coming, so he brought it up on purpose for Long Fei Yi to hear. Medicine City's strength was deep and solid. They weren't just any allies. My father isn't feeling well, so I came as his representative, Mu Ling said, before hastily adding, and as Medicine City's representative. Chu Qingge felt uncomfortable all over at the words. She couldn't even sit comfortably in her chair, so she clenched her fists and pounded them on the table. Still, she had to admit that she couldn't compare to this damned girl in terms of status. Was it because Big Brother didn't want to offend Medicine City that he didn't show up after saving me at the inn? She'd asked him a few times, but all she got in return was rolling her eyes. Chu Qingge looked towards Han Yunqi, trying to figure out the relationship between Mu Ling and Han Yunqi. The two of them weren't friendly at all, but Han Yunqi had clearly saved Mu Ling that day. Han Yunxi was looking quietly at Mu Ling, her gaze flickering between light and dark. It was both heavy and complicated. Long Fei Yi didn't pay much attention to her side. Send Zhan's regards to your father's well-being, Emperor Tianhui said seriously. All right, Mu Ling, nodded before looking towards the Empress Dowager. The Empress Dowager had a kind smile on her face, but her heart was already blooming with joy. She was guessing what kind of gift Medicine City would give her. It had to be some sort of medicine, but it was hard to guess what it was. Actually, it wasn't just the Empress Dowager who was guessing. Everyone else present was guessing as well. Medicine City's gifts had always been extraordinary. Under the gazes of the crowd, Mu Ling, walked out of her seat. When she passed by Han Yunxi, she purposely shot her a provocative glance. Han Yunxi allowed her to do as she pleased without batting an eyelid. Mu Ling, walked in front of the Empress Dowager and made a simple bow. Mu Ling, greets Tianning's Empress Dowager. Rise, rise. The Empress Dowager was so moved that she couldn't hide it. Her face was wreathed in a spring breeze. Mu Ling, made another bow, this time with a grand bow. Ling, represents the Mu clan and Medicine City to congratulate Tianning's Empress Dowager. May the sun and moon be bright, the pines and cranes be everlasting. May your happiness last forever, and your future be boundless. May your smile bloom from your mouth and your family live forever. Her loud voice filled the silent hall with congratulatory words. Both the Empress Dowager and Emperor Tianhui were very satisfied. Good, good, good. This child's mouth is so sweet. The Empress Dowager couldn't stop grinning as she looked towards Emperor Tianhui. Emperor Tianhui grinned and nodded in agreement. Esteemed Empress Dowager praises me too much, Mu Ling said modestly. See, you're still being modest, the Empress Dowager said with a smile. Hurry and rise. Mu Ling immediately rose, then turned to walk towards her seat and sit down. And then, there was no congratulatory gift. What did Medicine City mean by this? Just like that, the Empress Dowager's smile froze. Her eyes stared straight ahead, her expression terrifying. Without warning, the entire hall fell silent. Everyone exchanged glances as the atmosphere turned strange. Medicine City was actually interfering in Tianning's internal affairs at a time like this to support His Highness Duke of Qin. Heavens! What's wrong with Medicine City? Could it be that the three great clans and His Highness Duke of Qin had gotten together? Very soon, all sorts of suspicions arose. The Empress Dowager's breathing grew heavier as she clenched her fists. Her rage was on the verge of exploding. Abominable! Too abominable! This damned girl wasn't planning to give a gift? Why did she walk out then? Why did she say so many congratulatory words? What was she doing? The Empress Dowager was so angry that her face had turned white. Her entire body was trembling, while Emperor Tianhui's face had long turned into a palette of colors. Medicine City's public support for Long Fei Yi was beyond his expectations. What was Mu Yingdong planning? What were the Wang and Xie clans planning? Despite the doubtful looks from the crowd, Mu Ling, leisurely sipped her tea as if nothing had happened. Han Yunxi's tightly pursed lips slowly rose into a smile. She nudged Long Fei Yi lightly with her elbow and said, I said this girl was very cute, didn't I? Long Fei Yi didn't reply, but gave Mu Ling a rare look. Actually, even without Mu Ling he would have let Emperor Tianhui know that he had foreign powers in his hands today. Since Mu Ling had accidentally chosen to represent Medicine City, he didn't need to explain himself. As Mu Ling drank her tea, she glanced at Han Yunxi out of the corner of her eye. When she saw Han Yunxi smiling at her, she immediately withdrew her gaze and ignored her with a haughty expression. Han Yunxi gave a lazy yawn and drank her tea without looking at her again. Perhaps only Han Yunxi and Mu Ling understood the subtle relationship between them. In any case, everyone present was discussing Medicine City's stance. Emperor Tianhui was finally re-evaluating Long Fei Ye's capabilities. He had to consider how Mu Ling-er's actions would make the other foreign guests look at him. How could such a good banquet go on? No matter what, it had to continue for the sake of Tianning's imperial family's face. The Empress Dowager was so angry that she wanted to smash her things and leave, but she was still the Empress Dowager. She suppressed her anger and sat upright in her seat. Emperor Tianhui was extremely uneasy. He had to calm down and re-evaluate the power behind Long Fei Yi. It seemed like he'd have to put aside the difficulties he'd prepared for Long Fei Yi. If he forced this retainer brother of his into a corner, he'd really start a rebellion. Under his rule, Tianning looked peaceful and prosperous, but there were internal and external troubles. If Long Fei Yi really made a move, it wouldn't do him any good. Although he knew that Long Fei Yi had won this game, Emperor Tianhui was still unwilling to accept it. But after weighing the pros and cons, he could only endure for now. Your Majesty, I heard that the dancers performed a peach blossom dance for the Empress Dowager. Why don't you have them come up to liven things up? Noble Consort Yun seized the chance to speak up. The Empress had gone mad. As the mother of the second imperial son, Noble Consort Xiao was likely to suffer because of Prime Minister Zhao's stance. Naturally, she had to seize the chance. She had to pave the way for her seventh imperial son. Emperor Tianhui nodded. A group of dancers as beautiful as flowers walked out from the left and right sides of the hall. Their faces were like peach blossoms, and their pink robes fluttered in the wind. They immediately attracted the attention of everyone present. Although everyone was still suspicious of what had just happened, the atmosphere was less tense on the surface. The Empress Dowager silently exhaled, a sinister look flashing past her eyes. Even if I can't make things difficult for the Duke of Qin, I should at least embarrass Han Yunshi today. Otherwise, I won't be able to swallow this anger. As they enjoyed the dance, the other foreign guests began to offer their congratulations. None of them acted like Mu Ling, or did again. Duanmu Bei represented Western Zhou to present the Empress Dowager with a generous gift, which was within everyone's expectations. Although Chu Qingge wanted to support the Duke of Qin, she knew that she couldn't convince Duanmu Bei. She couldn't help but look towards Mu Ling with envy. If I could represent all of Western Zhou, or even the Chu clan, I'd definitely stand on Long Fei Ye's side. Some backgrounds meant that one couldn't do as they pleased. Others allowed you to do as you pleased. After the foreign guests finished offering their congratulations, everything returned to normal. Everyone enjoyed the peach blossom dance with peace of mind. Needless to say, this peach blossom dance was truly beautiful. The Empress Dowager seemed to be enjoying the show, but she was secretly wondering how she should deal with Han Yunshi. Han Yunshi had no idea of the Empress Dowager's thoughts. She was currently savoring the delicacies on the table while enjoying the dance. She'd been busy all this time, so it was rare for her to have a chance to enjoy herself like this. Unexpectedly, Chu Qingge spoke up with a smile. Qin Wang Fei. Chapter 3:12. The crowd tasted the fine wine while enjoying the singing and dancing, chatting in groups of twos and threes. Chu Qingge didn't attract much attention when she spoke loudly, but her cries of Qin Wang Fei attracted the attention of everyone present. There was no helping it. Han Yunshi was the center of attention to begin with. Moreover, the person by her side had caused a ruckus at the banquet, so it was hard not to look at her at the mention of her name. The lively hall quieted down once more as the Empress Dowager and Emperor Tianhui looked towards Chu Qingge. That was exactly the effect Chu Qingge wanted. Han Yunshi was a little surprised. She knew Chu Qingge would find a chance to get revenge for the restaurant incident, but never expected her to call her out at the Empress Dowager's birthday banquet. She really didn't know what this woman was thinking. Although this looked like a banquet, it was actually a competition between men. What was a woman like her causing a ruckus? Cold, Han Yunshi asked. Do you need something? Qin Wang Fei's talents and learning are unparalleled in Tianning. Even our Princess Yao lost to you. Now all of Cloud Realm continent is saying that Princess Yao is inferior to Qin Wang Fei. Chu Qingge smiled as she spoke, causing Duanmu Bei's face to darken. What does this woman want to do? Why bring up Yao Yao for no reason? Hasn't she lost enough face? Chu Tinin's eyebrows creased in irritation as he tugged at Chu Qingge. Unfortunately, she ignored him and kept talking. The so-called talents and learning include poetry and songs, as well as the zither, chess, calligraphy, and painting. It's a pity that esteemed Wang Fei only beat Princess Yao in poetry. At these words, Duanmu Bei's gloomy face dissipated into the clear skies. He suddenly realized that this was a great chance to turn things around for Yao Yao. After all, a cold beauty like Chu Qingge had always disdained competitions or women's gatherings. But in reality, her talents and learning far surpassed Yao Yao's. She was the most talented woman in Western Zhou. If she said something like that, then she must be challenging Han Yunqi. Han Yunqi was definitely going to lose. Cold, Han Yunqi looked at Chu Qingge and allowed her to speak without saying a word. Chu Qingge pressed on step by step before adding, Qingge invites Qin Wangfei to play a piece so I can experience Qin Wangfei's zither skills. It can also count as a performance for esteemed Empress Dowager's birthday celebration. Han Yunqi's lips curled into a mocking smile. It was obvious that she wanted to compete with her in zither skills and avenge Duanmu Yao. Look at how good her words were. With just a few words, she pulled the Empress Dowager to her side. Needless to say, the Empress Dowager had been fretting over a chance to make things difficult for Han Yunqi. As soon as she heard Chu Qingge's suggestion, her interest was piqued. Before Han Yunqi could say anything, the old lady had already made the decision. All right. Good idea. Aijia has also heard that Qin Wangfei's talent is renowned throughout the world. Aijia wants to take this opportunity to see for herself. Esteemed Empress Dowager, why don't we each play a song for the Peach Blossom Dance? Chu Qingge suggested hastily. Very good, very good. The Empress Dowager was very happy. When there was a performance, there would be a competition. When there was a competition, there would be an evaluation. Of course she wouldn't give Han Yunqi a good review. Moreover, playing a song together wasn't an easy task. Playing a live zither accompaniment was the most difficult part. It tested not only one's skill in the zither, but one's temperament and skills as well. This required a certain level of mastery over music. Usually, one had to start from elementary school and receive professional guidance from a court musician. Otherwise, it would be impossible to learn. Of course, the Chu clan could afford to hire a court musician, but Han Yunqi's clan. Both Chu Qingge and the Empress Dowager were certain that Han Yunqi didn't know how to play. Indeed, Han Yunqi really didn't know how to play. Forget about accompanying music, she couldn't even understand ancient musical scores. Yunqi, come. Play a song to cheer me up. The Empress Dowager was half joking, half commanding. They'd just come to the birthday celebration, so she couldn't bring herself to ask everyone for gifts. Thus, she couldn't do anything about Long Fei Yi or the other nobles. But now, she had ways to deal with a single Han Yunqi. No matter how strong the Duke of Qin was or how rebellious Han Yunqi was, they couldn't openly defy her orders at the birthday banquet. Han Yunqi hesitated for a long time before replying. Esteemed Empress Dowager, let Miss Chu play a song first. Hearing this, Chu Qingge and the Empress Dowager were both secretly pleased. If Han Yunqi was in such a difficult position, there'd be a good show to watch later. Esteemed Empress Dowager, Qingge has embarrassed herself. Chu Qingge couldn't wait to show off. Today, Long Fei Yi was present. If she didn't seize the chance to draw his attention, who knew how long she'd have to wait? Today, she'd let Long Fei Yi know that she was more than twice as good as Han Yunqi. An expensive guzheng was placed in the center of the hall with Chu Qingge sitting upright behind it. The musicians on the side had all stopped what they were doing to allow a group of pink-robed dancers to surround her. Her white robes made her seem otherworldly, her aura cold and clear. The dancers' pink robes were beautiful and dreamy, like a fairy descending from a forest of peach blossoms. Everyone was intoxicated by the sight. Even Emperor Tianhui grew interested. Unfortunately, Long Fei Yi was the only one drinking wine by himself. He was in a world of his own, completely ignoring the beautiful scenery in the hall. When Chu Qingge saw that Long Fei Yi wasn't even looking at her, she angrily began to play. Today, she was going to play until he looked over. Clang! At the sound of the music, the dancers began to dance. Chu Qingge was so focused that she didn't have the dancers coordinate with her music. Instead, she used the music to match the dancers' steps. It was the same flourishing peach blossom dance from before, but the accompanying music was completely different. It changed from the bleakness of winter to the cheerful blossoms of spring, to the joy and joy of spring, and then to the fall of spring. It was both romantic and sad. The dance and the music matched each other perfectly, far surpassing the accompanying music from before. Everyone watched and listened until Chu Qingge finished the last note and the dancers stopped. Only then did they recover their senses. The Empress Dowager clapped her hands and exclaimed, "Good! Excellent!" Everyone exclaimed in admiration and praise, but Chu Qingge only had eyes for Long Fei Yi, the Long Fei Yi who hadn't spared her a single glance. She was so disappointed. She stood up and faced Han Yunqi directly. Esteemed Wang Fei, it's your turn. Perhaps Long Fei would only realize how good she was at playing the piano with a comparison. He, don't lose face for me or our Tianing. The Empress Dowager was impatient. Currently, Han Yunqi was sitting lazily with her chin propped up in her hand. She had no intention of rising to her feet as she smiled. Miss Chu is truly formidable. I was completely mesmerized just then. You played so well. Esteemed Wang Fei praises me wrongly. Esteemed Wang Fei can definitely play better than Qingge. Chu Qingge feigned modesty. Han Yunqi's face was full of worry. How could that be? You and the dancers worked so well together. This Wang Fei can't do such a thing. Chu Qingge only felt that these words were strange, but she couldn't put her finger on it. Yunqi, hurry and play a song, the Empress Dowager urged. But Han Yunqi only laughed. Esteemed Empress Dowager really knows how to joke. Yunqi isn't a servant. How could I play for the dancers? What kind of scandal is that? No matter if they were musicians, singers or dancers, they were all servants. Whether they sang, danced or played, they were all there to serve their masters and make them happy. Han Yunqi was a proper Qin Wang Fei, so how could she perform with the dancers? Han Yunqi had only allowed Chu Qingge to go first, but she hadn't agreed to perform. As she spoke, she praised Chu Qingge generously. It's a pity that Miss Chu didn't become a musician. Her words were like a slap to Chu Qingge's face. How could Han Yunqi do such a thing? What she was proud of was the behavior of a servant in Han Yunqi's eyes. What about Long Fei Yi? Did he think the same thing? Was that why he didn't even spare her a glance? Chu Qingge was furious, but when she saw Han Yunqi dressed in purple and sitting next to Long Fei, she couldn't help but feel inferior to the woman. No. She was too afraid of this feeling. It had to be her imagination. Chu Qingge didn't answer Han Yunqi, but sent a pleading look towards the Empress Dowager. She was very clear that the Empress Dowager wouldn't let go of such a good chance. That's right, the Empress Dowager hated Han Yunqi even more than Chu Qingge. How could she let go of such a chance? Yunqi, you made a promise to me just then. Don't make me unhappy. The Empress Dowager was still smiling, but there was a hidden meaning behind her smile. Esteemed Empress Dowager, Yunqi only wanted Miss Chu to play a song first. When did I ever agree? Han Yunqi pretended to act coquettishly. Then if she plays a song first, you'll take it, the Empress Dowager said patiently. I didn't say I'd take it. If she plays a song first, she'll play another. Han Yunqi said self-righteously. She was simply a scoundrel. Many people laughed at her words. Mu Ling laughed the loudest of all. How could a proud person like Chu Qingge stand it? She huffed and said, Esteemed Empress Dowager, is Qin Wang Fei going back on her word? Finally, the Empress Dowager grew serious and said coldly, Yunqi, I'll have you. As the Empress Dowager spoke, she saw Han Yunqi slowly take out a fan from behind her back. First, she turned it over and over in her hands to play with it a few times, then calmly and leisurely fanned herself. As soon as the Empress Dowager saw the fan, she shut her mouth. Heavens! This was the medicine fan, the very thing she'd bitterly searched for decades. She looked forward to seeing it every day, so she recognized it at a glance. It was definitely the best medicine for insomnia, the medicine fan. She'd suffered from insomnia ever since she was young. Every night, she found it hard to fall asleep and had to toss and turn in bed for 2 to 4 hours before she fell asleep. Once she fell asleep, she'd be woken up by noises and couldn't fall asleep again. Instead, she'd have to keep her eyes open until dawn. Naturally, she'd taken plenty of medicine before, or else she wouldn't have lived to this day. She wouldn't be so energetic during the day, but every medicine had a side effect. She was already afraid of taking them. Back then, the head imperial physician had written a prescription for the medicine fan, saying it was only beneficial and harmless to the body. But she'd never found a trace of it. She never thought that it'd end up in Han Yunqi's hands. Only those who'd suffered from insomnia knew how painful it was. The Empress Dowager stared at the item in Han Yunqi's hands and forgot about making things difficult for her. She was so happy that she was about to cry. Very few people could recognize the medicine fan. Chu Qingge didn't recognize it, nor did she know about the Empress Dowager's insomnia. Seeing the Empress Dowager remain silent, she hastened to say, "Esteemed Empress Dowager, does your Tianing Wang Fei always go back on her word?" Chapter 313. Han Yunqi was very satisfied when she saw the Empress Dowager's expression, so happy she was about to cry. She thought that the medicine fan would be useless to her, but now it looked like it was quite useful. She lazily straightened her body and leaned against the back of the chair, fanning the medicine fan in her hand. The embroidered patterns on both sides of the fan flickered in and out of view with her movements. The Empress Dowager's eyes followed Han Yunqi's movements, afraid that she'd miss something and lose the medicine fan. The Empress Dowager liked receiving birthday gifts because she enjoyed the feeling of being respected and pleasantly surprised. But right now, the treasure in Han Yunqi's hands was something she truly needed. Chu Qingge stood in place, waiting for the Empress Dowager to speak, but the Empress Dowager stopped talking and ignored her. She had no idea what the old woman was spacing out for. Han Yunqi and Long Fei Yi had caused such a mess at the birthday banquet that the Empress Dowager should be cruel to them. If she couldn't deal with Long Fei Yi, how could she spare Han Yunqi? She was giving the Empress Dowager a chance, so why wouldn't she seize it? "Esteemed Empress Dowager, Qin Wang Fei is such a bully. You have to give me justice." Chu Qingge grew even more impolite. "Aya, Miss Chu, everyone's watching. Just how did I bully you? What did I promise you?" Han Yunqi's calm demeanor was enough to anger a person to death. Chu Qingge had a cold heart and didn't want to waste words with a scoundrel like Han Yunqi. She looked at the Empress Dowager with a serious expression. If this was the past, the Empress Dowager would have forced Han Yunqi to stand up long ago without Chu Qingge's urging. But now she was hesitating. Her mind was filled with thoughts of how to get the medicine fan from Han Yunqi's hands. Han Yunqi was someone who could be persuaded by reason, but not cowed by force. If she got angry and burned the medicine fan, where was she supposed to find a second one? This matter had to be done slowly, and it had to be done intelligently. The Empress Dowager thought that it was better not to provoke Han Yunqi at this juncture. They were like fire and water. If she let Han Yunqi hold a grudge, it would be difficult for her to win. The old Empress Dowager was so lost in her own thoughts that she didn't even notice Chu Qingge's curtsy. She simply treated the girl as air. Everyone in the hall was watching. Chu Qingge waited and waited until she felt like she was singing a one-man show all by herself. "Old Empress Dowager, say something. If you don't say anything, where should I put my face?" Finally, she couldn't take it anymore. Right now, all thoughts of being aloof, haughty, and cold beauty were thrown to the back of her mind. Flustered and exasperated, she turned to give the Empress Dowager a grand bow. "Empress Dowager of Tianing, everyone's watching. Please give Qingge justice." Only then did the Empress Dowager come back to her senses. "Miss Chu, please rise." Chu Qingge took a deep breath and straightened up, her haughtiness returning. As long as the Empress Dowager cooperated with her, Han Yunqi's words would be useless. But who knew that the Empress Dowager's next words would be? "It's true that Qin Wang Fei never agreed to play a song. It was just a joke, so Miss Chu shouldn't take it seriously." "What?" Chu Qingge felt like she'd been struck by lightning. She gaped, her entire body stiff. "Did I hear wrong? What did the Empress Dowager just say?" "Esteemed Empress Dowager is wise and brilliant. This Wang Fei sees that Miss Chu's Qin skills are truly exceptional. Why don't you play another song to liven up everyone's spirits?" Han Yunqi covered her face with her medicine fan and smiled. How could she look so bashful and charming? Liven up everyone's spirits? If Han Yunqi hadn't said that she was a servant, it wouldn't have been a big deal for her to liven things up. But Han Yunqi had just said that she wasn't a servant, so she wouldn't show her face in public. Now she wanted her to liven things up for everyone, much less help them drink. Just what did this woman take her for? Although her status wasn't as high as her status as the Duke of Qin's official consort, she was still the eldest young miss of Western Zhou's Chu clan. Outside of Western Zhou's imperial clan, the Chu clan was the noblest clan in the country. Chu Qingge was a proud person, but she was still so angry that her face turned red. She almost burst into tears as she glared hatefully at the Empress Dowager, unable to comprehend her words. The Empress Dowager was in a difficult position as well. She didn't want to offend Han Yunqi, but she couldn't hurt Chu Qingge, either. She was trying to think of a way to settle the dispute and have Chu Chinga return to her seat when Han Yunqi lazily spoke up again. Esteemed Empress Dowager, let Miss Chu play another song. She played so well just then that I still want to hear more. As she spoke, she purposely placed the medicine fan on the table and lightly patted it. This action stunned the Empress Dowager. Could it be that Han Yunqi knows that I've been begging for the medicine fan for ages? Does she know about my insomnia as well? Most likely, the Duke of Qin knows as well, so it's no surprise that Han Yunqi knows. Perhaps the Duke of Qin was the one who gave her the medicine fan. Could it be that she was threatening her with her actions? Damned girl. The Empress Dowager cursed in her heart, but in the end, she couldn't resist the temptation of the medicine fan. Suffering from insomnia for over 20 years was a fate worse than death. It was enough to make her give up on all her past grudges. If Han Yunqi is threatening me, then I still have a chance to get the medicine fan. I won't be impulsive. I'll use my wits. Hee, I still want to hear more too. Miss Chu, can you play another song? The Empress Dowager smiled as she went along with Han Yunqi's wishes. Chu Chinga couldn't believe her ears. Her vision went black then white. She was so angry that she almost fainted. Who could tell her what was going on? Had the old Empress Dowager lost her mind, or been possessed? She was actually protecting Han Yunqi. Few of the people present could tell Chu Chinga the reason, because everyone else was as incredulous as she was. Even Emperor Tianhui didn't recognize the medicine fan, much to his surprise. What's wrong with Muhu? Although Emperor Tianhui wanted to help Chu Chinga, this was still a woman's affair. He hadn't interfered from the start, but now it was even harder for him to do so. Moreover, he had his own fears. If he interfered, Long Fei Yi would get involved as well. If that happened, then the losses would outweigh the gains. Emperor Tianhui hadn't feared Long Fei Yi at all before the birthday banquet. He'd only given him a bit of courtesy, but now he feared Long Fei Yi even more. Emperor Tianhui glanced at Long Fei Yi, who was drinking leisurely without batting an eyelid. In the end, he decided to bide his time. Muhu must have her reasons for doing this, he thought. I'll ask her about them later. Esteemed Empress Dowager. Chu Chinga felt wronged. What? Miss Chu isn't willing to play another song for me. The Empress Dowager's face was filled with disappointment. Chu Chinga almost spat up blood at the words. Intolerable bullying. Absolutely intolerable bullying. Duanmu Bei and Chu Tianyin watched from the sidelines. Chu Tianyin furrowed his brows as he lamented the misfortune of his little sister. He'd warned her long ago not to have any ideas about Han Yunqi, but she refused to listen. If news of this reached his father's ears, he wouldn't be able to protect her, either. The situation before them was clear. Although there was no way to explain the Empress Dowager's actions, anyone who tried to help her would only be at a loss. Duanmu Bei had been planning to attack Han Yunqi, but now he only rejoiced that he hadn't interfered. Otherwise, he'd be in an awkward spot as well. Chu Chinga couldn't refuse the Empress Dowager since she was the one who'd started all this trouble. Moreover, the two of them had come with Crown Prince Yi to attend the birthday banquet because of Duanmu Yao's collusion with Northern Li's Duke of Kong. In other words, they were here to explain and apologize. Duanmu Yao's matter was still fresh, so she couldn't afford to make the Empress Dowager unhappy in front of everyone, right? Chu Chinga had no choice but to play another song. As long as esteemed Empress Dowager likes it, Chinga will be honored. Chu Chinga didn't even know how she finished her sentence. Her heart was stifled enough to suffocate her. But Han Yunqi only smiled and spoke again. Miss Chu, are you planning to accompany the dancers or play a solo piece? Chu Chinga had to take a deep breath to control her emotions and prevent herself from exploding. A solo piece, she said coldly. Of course she was going to play a solo piece. If she accompanied the dancers, wouldn't she really be a servant performing for everyone's amusement? The dancers withdrew, leaving Chu Chinga to sit by the zither again. Although she was still as beautiful as ever, cold and noble, as if she didn't eat the food of mortals, she'd lost all of her previous self-confidence and ease. The best zither skills lay in one's mental state. If one's heart wasn't calm, the notes would be jumbled up. The more Chu Chinga played, the more she lost herself. The more she wanted to give up, but she had no choice but to persevere to the end. She didn't even dare to raise her head to look at the crowd for fear of their mocking gazes. Still, she couldn't help but look towards Han Yunqi. Han Yunqi was still sitting there lazily, admiring her with interest. Even though she'd chosen to play a solo piece, the sight of Han Yunqi's elegant posture and languid gaze still made Chu Qingge feel like a servant performing for Han Yunqi's sake. She'd been so confident in challenging Han Yunqi to a duel, but who knew that she'd end up playing 2 pieces in a row while Han Yunqi sat there so respectfully the entire time. She'd won without a fight. Grievance, unwillingness, and resentment all rose up in her heart. Her zither notes grew more and more disorderly as the crowd began to talk amongst themselves. Chu Qingge herself didn't notice. She couldn't help but glance towards Long Fei Yi from the corner of her eye, only to see Long Fei Yi looking at her. Heavens! Is he finally paying attention to me? Chu Qingge's heart trembled. Suddenly, there was a clang as the zither string snapped. Only then did Chu Qingge recover her wits and realize how terrible she'd been playing. She looked at the broken string, then looked up at Long Fei Yi. She was at a loss when faced with the attention she'd been longing for. Long Fei Yi was looking at her now, but only at her most wretched state. Long Fei Yi only glanced at her a few times before leaning towards Han Yunqi and intimately pressing his lips against Han Yunqi's ear. She couldn't hear what he was saying. Han Yunqi chuckled softly as if she was very happy. Chu Qingge's heart ached at the sight. Are they laughing at me? With the string snapped, she couldn't play anymore. She gritted her teeth and finally lowered her proud head to bow to the Empress Dowager before silently returning to her seat. She'd lost. Thoroughly. After Chu Qingge's farce, Emperor Tianhui and the Empress Dowager had no choice but to withdraw all of their preparations. The birthday banquet proceeded smoothly. Although it didn't count as a coup d'état, it had far-reaching implications for Tianning. When the banquet ended, Long Fei Yi and Han Yunqi's carriage was the first to leave. Unexpectedly, Mu Ling was even faster than them. By the time they reached the Duke of Qin's estate, Mu Ling was already waiting for them on the steps. Chapter 3:14. Seeing Han Yunqi and Long Fei Yi get off the carriage, Mu Ling immediately jumped up and ran straight to Han Yunqi. Han Yunqi was used to seeing women who were infatuated with Long Fei Yi, but this was the first time she saw a woman who turned a blind eye to Long Fei Yi. Han Yunqi, where's Qi brother? Mu Ling was very direct. She had been staying in the capital all this time because of Qi brother. She always thought that Qi brother would come after her for pushing Han Yunqi, but who would have thought that Qi brother didn't show up even after waiting for so long? After her father redeemed her out of King Qin's mansion that day, she didn't leave. She stayed in the inn closest to King Qin's mansion and often waited at the front and back gates of King Qin's mansion, hoping to bump into Qi brother. Unfortunately, she returned disappointed every time. You didn't send your Qi brother to me, so how would I know? Han Yunqi asked with a smile. Mu Ling was speechless for a moment and asked again. Did Qi brother look for you? This silly girl. Was it really okay to ask such a question in front of Long Fei Yi? Even if Gu looked for her, she wouldn't admit it. Mu Ling treated Long Fei Yi like air, and Long Fei Yi also treated her like air. He held Han Yunqi's hand and continued to walk forward, and Han Yunqi followed him. Unexpectedly, Mu Ling boldly stopped Long Fei Yi. You hurt Qi brother. When they were in the bamboo forest in the backyard of the Mu residence, her father questioned her, and she learned that Qi brother was kicked into the water by Long Fei Yi. In fact, her father had been secretly monitoring her every move in the bamboo forest. Unfortunately, she didn't know it all. She even foolishly told her father everything about Gu and told him that she liked Gu. Get lost. Long Fei Yi suddenly said coldly. Mu Ling was intimidated by his aura and obediently took a step back. However, her mouth was still tough. Han Yunqi, Qi brother did all this to help you. If anything happens to him, you'll have to deal with it. After she finished speaking, she turned and strode away. She decided to stay by Han Yunqi's side until Qi brother showed up. She firmly believed that Qi brother would come back to find Han Yunqi. Actually, Han Yunqi didn't need Mu Ling to remind her. She was worried about Gu the entire time. It had been too long since they'd heard from him. She didn't know how badly he was hurt. It wasn't just Gu, but Mute Granny as well. Long Fei Yi had sent Chu Shifeng to search for her, but there was still no sign of her. It was normal that they couldn't find her corpse after falling off such a high cliff. But Han Yunshi was still holding on. She refused to accept the fact that Mute Granny was dead until she saw the body. By the time the two of them returned to the hibiscus courtyard, it was already late at night. They'd lost count of how many times they'd walked through the garden's corridors. In the dead of night, the moonlight shone like gauze. Long Fei Yi held her hand as they walked slowly. Time seemed to slow down here, making everything seem beautiful. Han Yunshi, do you know how to play the zither? Long Fei Yi suddenly asked. Zither? That was such a big word that Han Yunshi didn't even know how to answer. Didn't you hear enough at the birthday banquet? She asked with a grin. Every time, no matter how bright her smile was, he'd always be cold. She always wondered if it was true that smiles could affect people. I'm just asking, Long Fei Yi said mildly. If you want to listen, I'll just play a few pieces. Han Yunshi was still smiling. She'd long gotten used to his coldness. Moreover, she was in a very good mood tonight. She didn't know how to play the accompaniment, much less understand ancient zither scores. But she still knew how to play a few famous zither pieces. If she really played the zither against Chu Chinga tonight, she might not lose. But if there was a better way to beat Chu Chinga, of course she'd use it. She didn't like to perform in front of so many people. That would ruin Qin Wangfei's social status. There were so many influential people at the birthday banquet, but not many of them had the right to hear her play the zither, right? If your lordship listens seriously, will you play seriously as well? Long Fei Yi asked with interest. Han Yunshi raised her head and caught sight of a rare smile in Long Fei Ye's eyes. It was faint and faintly discernible, a smile that wasn't quite a smile. Under the quiet moonlight, it looked especially deep and enchanting. She couldn't help but stare blankly. This fellow must be in a good mood tonight. She couldn't even remember how long it had been since he last smiled. I will. Han Yunshi nodded seriously. She wasn't like Chu Chinga, who played for everyone else. She only played for him. Long Fei Yi held her hand, but they didn't head for Leisurely Cloud Pavilion. Instead, they went to his quarters. Han Yunshi had taken a tour of Long Fei Ye's mysterious quarters on her first day at the estate. She knew that there was a tatami mat tea room with a precious zither inside. But she'd never heard the sound of a zither in the past year since she'd entered the estate. Long Fei Yi personally brewed the tea, its fragrance fresh and clean. Han Yunshi washed her hands and burned incense, its fragrance rising in spirals. Long Fei Yi was clearly holding tea, but his movements made it seem like he was holding wine. He had long changed into a set of loose white robes and was sitting lazily on the tatami mat, sipping from his cup. Right now, he seemed less cold and indolent than before. He sat by the French windows, looking like a wandering immortal beneath the moonlight. Han Yunshi was a good-for-nothing. Right now, all her attention was on Long Fei Yi. This was the first time she'd seen him so indolent after so long. Was this a side of him that she didn't understand? Or was he starting to feel tipsy after drinking so much wine? Suddenly, Long Fei Yi asked, Han Yunshi, how long are you going to stare? Han Yunshi gave a start before quickly averting her gaze. She didn't know how to answer him. Didn't this guy always let her stare as she pleased? Seeing Han Yunshi's ears turn red, Long Fei Ye's eyes flashed with amusement, but it quickly disappeared. Han Yunshi lightly plucked at the zither and changed the topic. What's the name of this zither? Junyu, Long Fei Yi replied mildly. Han Yunshi only felt that it was especially beautiful. As she murmured the two words Junyu, she plucked at the zither and played the song Lovers of the Liang. The sound of the zither was mellow and melodious. It was as if she was weeping and narrating, as if she was quietly narrating a 1,000-year-old love story. Han Yunshi didn't know why she chose this song. Perhaps it was because of the name Junyu. Junyu, Junyu. The sound of the zither was like Junyu. Listening to the sound of the zither was like Junyu's voice. How much did she miss him? Long Fei Yi supported his head with one hand and listened quietly. He kept looking at Han Yunshi. He seemed to be listening to the song seriously, but he was actually looking at her seriously. He seemed to be entranced by the song, but he was actually entranced by her. He was so serious as he looked at her beautiful brows, her tall nose, her tender red lips, her lowered eyes, and her noble purple robes. She was so elegant and magnificent. He looked at her like she was his prey, but he also looked at her like she was a treasure. As he looked at it, his gaze gradually became solemn and heavy, as if there were many secrets hidden in it that no one knew. She didn't know that his heart for her was just like his gaze at this moment. It was mixed with too many things and also heavy. Han Yunqi lowered her head and continued to play. She didn't notice that Long Fei Yi wasn't actually listening to the song, but looking at her. When the last sound of the zither stopped, Han Yunqi raised her head. She herself was immersed in the faint sorrow of lovers of the Liang. At this time, Long Fei Yi had already put away all the emotions in his eyes and returned to his usual silent and cold appearance. "What's the name of this song?" Long Fei Yi asked. "Lovers of the Liang. I didn't write it. It's a famous song." Han Yunqi hurriedly explained. "Lovers of the Liang? What's the meaning of this name?" Long Fei Yi was curious. Han Yunqi summarized the story of Lovers of the Liang and smiled. "Your Highness, if you were Liang Shanhua, what would you do?" But Long Fei Yi only replied, "Your lordship isn't that weak." Han Yunqi was at a loss for words. All right, even if this guy was in a good mood tonight, she couldn't discuss this topic with him. It didn't suit him at all. Long Fei Yi drank a few cups of tea before he commented, It's very nice." Han Yunqi was speechless. She could faintly sense that this guy didn't really want her to play the zither. But what else could he do in the middle of the night besides listening to the zither on a whim? She sat by his side and drank tea with him. "Your Highness, the matter of the Western Mountains." Emperor Tianhui had said that she would go to the Western Mountains as soon as the Empress Dowager's birthday banquet was over. Long Fei Ye's ruckus at the banquet had indeed threatened Emperor Tianhui, but the matter of the Western Mountains had yet to be resolved. Han Yunqi had taken out the medicine fan because she didn't want to show off her skills on the spot, but also to leave herself a way out so she could tempt the Empress Dowager. "You'll understand when you go to the Imperial Physician Courtyard tomorrow," Long Fei Yi said mildly. So mysterious? Since Long Fei Yi had said as much, Han Yunqi didn't ask any more questions. Her heart was filled with curiosity. What could happen if she went to the Imperial Physician Courtyard? Or was there anyone who could stop her from going to the Western Mountains? Gu Beiwei was impossible. Han Yunqi couldn't figure it out no matter how hard she tried. She could only wait until tomorrow. After they finished talking about the Western Mountains, Han Yunqi fell silent as well. Actually, if she didn't say anything of her own accord, the two of them would spend most of their time in silence. She used to be taciturn as well, but she'd gradually become more talkative recently. Still, she didn't know what to say to him now. If he wanted to listen to the zither, she'd already finished playing. Just like that, the two of them fell into silence again. Actually, the two of them were already used to this kind of silence. It was just that tonight was a little late, and the atmosphere was a little off. Suddenly, Long Fei Yi spoke, "Han Yunqi." Han Yunqi immediately responded, raising her head to look at him. Their eyes met. Long Fei Yi didn't say anything for a long time. Han Yunqi probed, "Your Highness, is something the matter?" Long Fei Yi seemed a little hesitant, but he quickly denied it. "Nothing. Let's go. I'll send you back." She didn't know why, but Han Yunqi's heart suddenly felt empty. She responded mildly, Actually, the leisurely cloud pavilion wasn't far from the bedroom." Long Fei Yi really held her hand and sent her back to the entrance of the leisurely cloud pavilion. It was very late at night, and her heart was a little messy. The moment he let go of her hand, she once again felt empty. However, he remained calm and rational. He seriously instructed, "You must go to the Imperial Physician Courtyard tomorrow morning. Don't be late." Who would wait for Han Yunqi to go to the Imperial Physician Courtyard tomorrow? Chapter 3:15. According to the rules, Imperial physicians had to take turns working at the Imperial Physician Courtyard unless they were on leave. But Han Yunqi's status was special. Emperor Tianhui had only given her a title in name, so she was still free to do as she pleased. Han Yunqi couldn't figure out the connection between Long Fei Yi telling her to go to the Imperial Physician Courtyard and the Western Mountains. She woke up early the next day and went straight to the Imperial Physician Courtyard. This time, she saw Gu Beiwei. The sun was rising from the east as Gu Beiwei stood by the entrance to the Imperial Pharmacy behind the Imperial Physician Courtyard. His entire body was bathed in the sunlight, his white robes glinting with gold. There was an indescribable air of nobility and holiness about him. Han Yunxi looked towards him and felt like she was looking at an archangel. She didn't know why, but every time she saw this man, she felt wonderful. Even her mood improved. Soon enough, Gu Beiyue spotted Han Yunxi. He quickly walked over and bowed in a cultured and refined manner. This official greets esteemed Wang Fabe. Gu Beiyue, I'm an imperial physician while you're the head of the imperial physician courtyard. I'm your subordinate now, so shouldn't I be the one bowing to you? Han Yunxi teased. Frightened, Gu Beiyue immediately waved his hands. I don't dare. In terms of medical skills, I really can't compare to you. Han Yunxi was speaking the truth. In the medical academy's rankings, Gu Beiyue was a 5th-ranked divine doctor. She, on the other hand, wasn't even a 3rd-ranked divine doctor. Esteemed Wang Fei, a doctor of poisons, is also a doctor. Gu Beiyue was very earnest. Indeed, a doctor of poisons was also a doctor, but Cloud Realm Continent's medical community was controlled by the medical academy. They didn't include a doctor of poisons in their rankings. In other words, they didn't recognize poison doctors as such. Han Yunxi walked towards the imperial pharmacy as she spoke. She didn't know what Long Fei Yi had prepared for her, but she hadn't seen him yet. She might as well take a stroll around the pharmacy first. Last time, she'd been in a rush to report in, so she didn't get the chance to enter. Perhaps she could even replenish her stock. Since Emperor Tianhui dared to make her an imperial physician, he'd have to prepare to provide her with ingredients at any time. Was Imperial Physician Gu on duty last night? Why are you here so early? Han Yunxi asked. But Gu Beiyue only smiled. This official has been waiting for esteemed Wang Fei the entire time. You knew I was coming? Han Yunxi was surprised. After yesterday's banquet, General Bailey personally instructed this lowly official that he would send someone to pick up esteemed Wang Fei to treat Miss Mingxiang's illness. He wanted this lowly official to prepare the medical record. Hearing Gu Beiyue's explanation, Han Yunxi was even more surprised. But after some thought, she quickly figured out what was going on. This must have been arranged by Long Fei. What kind of illness does Miss Mingxiang have? Is it serious? Han Yunxi asked. Gu Beiyue handed over a medical record. She caught it a few days ago. Multiple imperial physicians have tried, but none of them have cured her yet. Yesterday, this official went to take a look personally. As this official sees it, it's very possible that she's been poisoned. Han Yunxi flipped open the record and saw that it was dated to the morning after Emperor Tianhui had appointed her as an official. Although it hadn't been long, the record already had the handwriting of 4 imperial physicians. Adding Gu Beiyue to the tally, that made it 5. Their previous diagnoses, prescriptions, and medical records were all written down in detail. Han Yunxi and Gu Beiyue hadn't exchanged more than a few words before someone from General Bailey's estate arrived to pick up Han Yunxi. Does Imperial Physician Gu want to go with me? Han Yunxi asked. Gu Beiyue shook his head. This official won't be able to help even if I go. It's better if esteemed Wang Fei goes by herself. Han Yunxi had no choice but to take the medical record with her and leave with General Bailey's men. General Bailey's estate and General Mu's were located on the east and west sides of the capital. Just like General Mu's estate, 2 rows of fully armed soldiers stood before the gates of General Bailey's estate. The vermilion gates stood tall and wide, emanating a dignified aura of military might. Han Yunxi hadn't even gotten out of the sedan chair when she saw a dignified woman standing before the gates. Han Yunxi recognized this woman as the one who'd ridiculed the 2nd imperial prince last night at the birthday banquet. She was General Bailey's youngest daughter and the only unmarried daughter of General Bailey's estate, Bailey Mingxiang. Some women's dignified aura came from their clothes, but this woman relied on her birth and upbringing. The aura of a noble young lady emanated from her bones and was hard to ignore. Han Yunxi dared to guarantee that Bailey Mingxiang's aura would rival that of Tianning's Empress and Empress Dowager in a few years' time. Based on her first impression, Han Yunxi quite liked this woman. But soon enough, Han Yunxi grew frightened as the distance between them drew closer. Her detox system had already detected that Bailey Mingxiang had been poisoned. Not just a single type, but multiple types of chronic poisons. The amount was shocking. Han Yunxi had only done a preliminary examination and found that the poisons weren't fatal, but there were too many of them. What was going on? A complicated look flickered past her eyes before Han Yunqi activated her detox system's in-depth examination and began to analyze every single poison in Bailey Mingxiang's body. As soon as she saw Han Yunqi get out of the sedan chair, Bailey Mingxiang hurried over and bowed. Mingxiang greets esteemed Wang Fei. 10,000 blessings to esteemed Wang Fei. Although Han Yunqi had come as an imperial physician, she was still a Wang Fei. If they found another imperial physician, they'd call for the imperial physician. If they found Han Yunqi, they'd call for esteemed Wang Fei. Aren't you ill? You're still coming out? You may rise, Han Yunqi said mildly. I should have gone to the estate, but I really couldn't walk. That's why I invited esteemed Wang Fei here. I ask esteemed Wang Fei to forgive me. Bailey Mingxiang was very sincere. But Han Yunqi only laughed. Go to the estate? Then why did Long Fei Yi have me go to the imperial physician courtyard? If it was just to treat Bailey Mingxiang's illness, Bailey Mingxiang could have gone to the Duke of Qin's estate instead of the imperial physician courtyard. When she saw Gu Beiyue's medical record and the date, Han Yunqi knew that Long Fei Yi had purposely left a record at the imperial physician courtyard. If Emperor Tianhui asked her about it, she'd have proof. Hearing Han Yunqi's words, the intelligent Bailey Mingxiang couldn't help but smile. In a low voice he said, Esteemed Wang Fei, please come inside. Bailey Mingxiang led Han Yunqi to her rooms and dismissed all the servant girls. Han Yunqi quickly asked as soon as she sat down. It was just an act. Why did you take so many poisons? Esteemed Wang Fei is so smart. No wonder His Highness likes you so much. Bailey Mingxiang smiled. That night, Emperor Tianhui made Han Yunqi an imperial physician and told her to go to the Western Mountains to treat the Empress's mental illness after the birthday banquet. Early next morning, Bailey Mingxiang received His Highness's orders to feign illness and leave a record at the imperial physician courtyard. At that time, she didn't know why His Highness wanted to do this. It was only when His Highness pushed her father out at the birthday banquet yesterday that she understood the mystery. At the banquet, His Highness had already made Emperor Tianhui feel threatened. Naturally, he'd have to restrain himself to avoid further conflicts. Under these circumstances, he had her father pretend to know nothing and go to the imperial physician courtyard to ask Han Yunqi to treat a patient. Then he'd use her chronic illness as an excuse to keep Han Yunqi in the capital. In this way, Emperor Tianhui would have no choice but to concede to the threat of the Long Fei Yi, her father's status, and the matter of the Western Mountains. Bailey Mingxiang wasn't sure if this was His Highness's original plan, or a last-minute change of heart for Han Yunqi's sake. But she was certain that Han Yunqi held a significant place in His Highness's heart. No matter what, she still hoped that His Highness would consider the bigger picture and not ruin his plans for a single woman. She'd liked His Highness for so many years, but she liked his coolness and callousness more than anything else. Han Yunqi looked at Bailey Mingxiang, suddenly at a loss for words. He liked her? That was the first time she'd heard such words. Even now, he'd never said he liked her. Sometimes when she thought about it carefully, she didn't even know what their relationship was. When it came to Duanmu Yao's matter, she'd said she minded and he'd explained himself. But before the misunderstanding, they were only husband and wife in name. Soon enough, Han Yunqi recovered from her thoughts and gave Bailey Mingxiang a brilliant smile. She teased, even if I'm not smart, His Highness will still like me. No, you're not smart. His Highness won't like you, Bailey Mingxiang joked back. Han Yunqi only felt that the words sounded strange, but she didn't have time to investigate. Bailey Mingxiang's poisons were very troublesome. She sat down and concentrated on examining Bailey Mingxiang's poisons. Soon enough, she discovered that something was amiss. She had only found that Bailey Mingxiang had many slow-acting poisons in her body. Now that she had analyzed each poison individually, she found that not only did she have many slow-acting poisons, these poisons were not taken at the same time. Instead, she had taken different poisons at different times. In other words, this woman had been taking poisons since she was 7 years old. She would take one every 1 to 3 months. Han Yunqi was even more shocked the more she examined her. Her eyes opened wide as she stared at Bailey Mingxiang in disbelief. She could not believe that this woman was still alive. Although the slow-acting poisons in her body wouldn't kill her, with so many poisons gathered together, the toxicity would be enough to destroy a person's immune system and cause them to die from the poison. How did this woman survive? Han Yunqi suspiciously took Bailey Mingxiang's pulse, but she found that there were no signs of poison. She asked in shock, "What's wrong with your body?" Bailey Mingxiang gave a gentle smile. "Princess Consort, actually His Highness didn't send you here to cure the poison, but to send you here to poison it." "What do you mean?" "Princess Consort, His Highness needs Beauty's blood." Bailey Mingxiang was still smiling, but Han Yunqi was so shocked that she couldn't say a word. Beauty's blood. Han Yunqi had read about it in the ancient poison scripture. Beauty's blood was a kind of poisonous blood that was used to make poisons. Beauty's blood wasn't natural and needed a special physique to cultivate it. The way to cultivate Beauty's blood was to frequently take different slow-acting poisons and let the poison settle in the blood. Only after 300 slow-acting poisons had settled could Beauty's blood be cultivated. As for what would happen to the person after the blood was cultivated, the book did not record it. Looking at the generous and dignified Bailey Mingxiang in front of her with a gentle smile, Han Yunqi's heart ached. It had to be known that Bailey Mingxiang had accumulated over 80 poisons in her body, and there were several dozen poisons that would flare up at any time. She wouldn't die, but living was worse than dying. Even so, she could still smile and say the words Beauty's blood. Chapter 316. Han Yunqi looked at Bailey Mingxiang. Her heart ached, but at the same time, she began to ponder many questions. Bailey Mingxiang had taken the earliest type of poison when he was 5 years old. Bailey Mingxiang was 20 this year, which meant that Long Fei Yi had needed Beauty's blood 15 years ago. Long Fei Yi had only been 8 years old at the time. Was it his Beauty's blood, or was it his relative from the Tang sect? What did he need Beauty's blood for? 13 years ago, Long Fei Yi had only been 10 years old. The previous emperor was still alive, so how could he have subdued General Bailey? Or was General Bailey related to the Tang sect? Just how loyal was the Bailey family to Long Fei Yi, or to the Tang sect, that they were willing to let their daughter suffer so much? Esteemed Wang Fei, His Highness's poison masters have already used up all of their slow-acting poisons. From now on, we'll have to trouble your highness to help Mingxiang concoct medicine. Bailey Mingxiang's words pulled Han Yunqi back from her thoughts. What does Long Fei Yi need Beauty's blood for? Han Yunqi had always thought that the Beauty's blood recorded in the ancient poison codex was nothing more than a legend. She never thought that such a terrifying thing really existed. That's a secret, Bailey Mingxiang replied indifferently. Han Yunqi was angry. You invited me here, but you didn't tell me the truth. Do you think I'll help you? Esteemed Wang Fei, you're not helping me. You're helping His Highness. Bailey Mingxiang was very calm. So you really don't plan on telling me? Han Yunqi asked seriously. Unexpectedly, Bailey Mingxiang smiled. Esteemed Wang Fei, I don't know this secret either. If you want to know, you'll have to ask His Highness yourself. Bailey Mingxiang could see that Han Yunqi was not very happy. She knew that if she did not explain, Han Yunqi would definitely misunderstand. She wasn't trying to show off her secret to Han Yunqi. She really didn't know why she had to raise Beauty's blood. She only remembered that when she was young, her father had taken her to a woman from the Tang sect, a terrifying woman. From then on, she would often take poison. At that time, she did not know that it was poison. She only knew that the medicine was very bitter. She was very afraid of that woman. She didn't even dare to say no. Every time she took the medicine, she would secretly cry for a long time. She hated her father to death. When she was 7 years old, that woman died. She was overjoyed and thought that she would never have to take medicine again. But who knew that when her father went to pick her up, he would bring a bunch of medicine home and force her to take it on time. At that time, she already knew that it was poison because the poison would act up from time to time. She would often vomit from the pain and faint from the pain. She always thought that she would die from the pain. But she didn't. She was still alive. She hated, resented, and tried to escape. Unfortunately, she was powerless. Her father's orders were military orders. She could only obey and had no reason to disobey. When she was 13 years old, she tried to commit suicide. She fell into the lotus pond in the backyard, but she was saved by a boy 3 years older than her. She would never forget how he looked that day. That purple robe was cold and noble. That handsome face was like that of a celestial, and that pair of deep and mysterious eyes. He brought her ashore. Coldly he said, "You can't die yet. Live on." After that he stopped talking. No matter how she asked, he didn't say a word. His silence was enough to silence the entire world. After that, he would appear by the pond every evening. He would sit quietly for 2 to 4 hours. He seemed to be in a daze, but also seemed to be thinking. She also went there every day. Sometimes, she would wait for him early. She told him many things. She told him all the grievances and pain she had suffered all these years. She didn't even know if he was listening. In short, for an entire month, he didn't say a word to her. There was even one time when she boldly told him, "Take me away. Take me far away." Helpless, he didn't even look at her. She thought that it was enough that he didn't tell her to shut up. Later, he suddenly stopped coming. She waited every day for 3 months. One day, her father brought her to the Duke of Qin's residence to get medicine. Only then did she know that the person who saved her was the true master of the Bailey estate. He was the master that the Bailey clan had been loyal to for generations, the Duke of Qin, Long Fei Yi. Sometimes, liking someone only took a moment. She admitted that she had fallen in love at first sight. Sometimes, falling in love took many years. All these years, she loved him silently. There was only one way to love him. She followed what he said when he saved her. She couldn't die. Live on. Even her father didn't know the true use of the beauty's blood. She didn't know either. She only knew that it was the reason for her to live on. Bailey Mingxiang had given Han Yunqi too many surprises. She couldn't understand why this woman was willing to suffer so much to raise the poison blood without knowing the use of the beauty's blood. She originally wanted to ask if it had anything to do with the perplexing butterfly illusion, but after thinking about it carefully, she realized that perhaps Long Fei Yi didn't let Bailey Mingxiang know about the perplexing butterfly illusion. So in the end, she didn't say anything and didn't ask any more. She would have to ask Long Fei Yi about this matter. "Doesn't your father care about you?" Han Yunqi couldn't help but ask. Everyone in the Bailey estate is willing to serve His Highness, even if it costs them their lives. Bailey Mingxiang said very seriously. Esteemed Wang Fei, His Highness said that the beauty's blood needs to be cultivated in 3 years at the latest. Please feel free to prescribe the medicine. Cultivating the beauty's blood required 300 different poisons. After so many years, Bailey Mingxiang had only taken 80 different poisons. Based on the previous rate of consumption, how many years would it take to reach 300 different poisons? His Highness Duke of Qin had asked Han Yunqi to come here because he wanted her to prescribe a suitable slow-acting poison to shorten the time required. Han Yunqi's brows furrowed. "I don't want to harm anyone. I have to get to the bottom of this." Bailey Mingxiang didn't expect Han Yunqi to say something like this. She froze for a moment, then smiled. "Esteemed Wang Fei, you're not harming me. Perhaps you're helping me." If she could be freed in 3 years, that would be a good thing. However, she didn't know if she would never be able to see His Highness again after she was freed. It was better to deal with the pain quickly than to prolong it. As a poison doctor, Han Yunqi understood this principle better than Bailey Mingxiang. She hesitated for a long time, then silently recorded all the data about the poison in Bailey Mingxiang's body into the detoxification system. She only recorded that it was a slow-acting poison in the Imperial Hospital's medical records, indicating that it would take a long time to recover. She didn't leave any poison behind. Instead, she prescribed Bailey Mingxiang some pills with special effects to relieve the pain. She said indifferently, "I'll come back another day." Bailey Mingxiang didn't say anything else. She smiled gently from beginning to end. She personally escorted Han Yunqi to the gate, respectfully sending esteemed Wang Fei off. Han Yunqi was about to leave, but she couldn't help but say in a low voice, "Go back. If the painkillers don't work, you can come find me at any time." As a doctor, faced with this kind of situation, her heart was so heavy that it felt like it was being weighed down by several large stones. She had a way to remove all the poison in Bailey Mingxiang's body in a single day, but that would mean that Bailey Mingxiang had suffered for more than 10 years in vain. "Long Fei Yi, just how cold-blooded are you?" Not long after Han Yunqi left, Aunt Ru appeared in front of Bailey Mingxiang. She allowed Bailey Mingxiang to bow on one side while she examined Han Yunqi's medicine with a serious expression. After a long time she said coldly, "You may rise." Yes. Bailey Mingxiang was very reserved. "Why didn't she prescribe any poison for you?" Aunt Ru asked. Esteemed Wang Fei said she wanted to know what was going on. Bailey Mingxiang replied honestly. Aunt Ru's eyes flashed with displeasure. "Don't tell His Highness that I came by." Bailey Mingxiang nodded without a second thought. But as soon as Aunt Ru left, she sent someone to report the news to Chu Shifeng. As intelligent as she was, she could tell at a glance that Aunt Ru harbored enmity towards Han Yunqi. She didn't know why, but she had a responsibility to tell His Highness everything. Han Yunqi went to the Imperial Physician Courtyard and gave the forged medical records to Gu Beiyue for safekeeping. Then she hurried back to the Duke of Qin's estate. She was anxious to see Long Fei Yi and ask about Bailey Mingxiang. But before she reached the corner of an alley, someone blocked her way. "Esteemed Wang Fei, may this one have the honor of inviting you to sample tea with us? It's the newest Cheeman Red." At the familiar voice, Han Yunqi abruptly lifted the curtains, only to see Gu Qishao dressed in red robes, his figure enchanting as he stood in front of the carriage. In his hands was a large red porcelain teapot. His face, capable of causing the downfall of cities and nations, was smiling like a blooming flower. Han Yunqi was pleasantly surprised. She quickly jumped off the sedan chair and rushed to Gu's side. "Are you all right?" "Don't worry, I won't die." Gu was incomparably happy as his smile became even more resplendent. TSK, you're very concerned about me. If I knew this would happen, I would have suffered a few more kicks from Long Fei Yi." Being able to talk back meant that he was fine. Han Yunqi put on a fake smile. "Mu Linger has been looking everywhere for you." In reality, Gu had been following Long Fei Yi and Han Yunqi to the capital. He was only afraid that Long Fei Yi would discover him, so he didn't dare to get too close. He had been recuperating in the capital the entire time. Mu Linger had been imprisoned by Long Fei Yi and later released. She had also caused a scene at the Empress Dowager's birthday banquet. He knew all of this. "Let her look for me," Gu heartlessly said. Who would have thought that Han Yunqi would be even more heartless than him? Who was the one who said that I could capture her and beat her to death? Just wait. Gu handed the tea over to Han Yunqi and actually turned to leave. Han Yunqi quickly pulled him back. "That's enough. We'll settle the grudges between us. Don't interfere." If Han Yunqi's guess wasn't wrong, Mu Linger wouldn't be having a good time these past few days. News of the birthday banquet would quickly spread back to Medicine City. If the three great clans found out that she had acted on her own and didn't send a congratulatory gift, even her father Mu Ingdong would want to beat her. "Then will esteemed Wang Fei do me the honor of drinking a cup of tea with this humble one?" Gu pretended to be polite. "Let's go." Han Yunqi was very straightforward. She could tell that Gu had come for a reason. Gu brought Han Yunqi to the capital's highest-grade tea house after the Ming Xiang tea house, the Heavenly Fragrance tea house. After entering, Han Yunqi found out that this was also one of Gu's businesses. This guy was truly a hidden tycoon. How many other businesses did he have that Long Fei Yi hadn't found out? The two of them sat down in a first-class private room. Han Yunqi went straight to the point and asked, "Tell me, why did you come looking for me?" Gu gazed at her with deep affection. "I missed you." If Mute Granny was still alive, she might not be able to find these three ingredients even if she found Mute Granny. This was because these three ingredients had very strict requirements for their growing environment. They also took a long time to grow and were rare to begin with. Add to that the fact that they died prematurely in the middle of their growth, and there weren't many left. Although they were rare, Gu was still very confident. "Poison lass, don't worry. Leave these two things to me." With one more person searching, one more source of strength and one more hope. Han Yunqi nodded seriously. "Emma, how are you going to repay me after I find the person?" Gu asked with a smile. The serious Han Yunqi immediately chuckled. She narrowed her eyes and laughed coldly. "You don't have to find her." Gu Qishao's smile turned stiff. "Is this woman my natural enemy?" Aside from that one time in the cave, he always felt like he'd lost to her. Han Yunshi liked seeing Gu's speechless expression more and more. But jokes aside, she couldn't help but probe, Gu, if I'm really a remnant of the poison sect, will you not like me anymore? She could see Gu's good points, but she could also see through Gu's motives. This guy had been interested in her poison skills, then the Tang clan's hidden weapons, then the embroidery on her medical pouch. He'd investigated Lady Tianxin, then found Mute Granny. Everything he did was to investigate her background. He was very concerned about whether or not she was related to the poison sect. Now, he was looking for Mute Granny to find out if the rumors about Mu Xin and the poison sect were true. Was her biological father a remnant of the poison sect, or was it Hong Kongan? If she told him right now that her biological father wasn't Hong Kongan, but was most likely a remnant of the poison sect, how would he react? Why was he so concerned about whether or not she was related to the poison sect? There are no ifs. Gu was still smiling, but he couldn't hide the determination in his voice. I say, what if there are ifs? Han Yunshi continued to ask. Gu suddenly stood up and leaned forward across the tea table. Han Yunshi didn't move, allowing him to get close to her. Gu didn't speak, but his eyes locked onto Han Yunshi's. At this moment, his gaze was as cold as a falcon's as it locked onto its prey. Han Yunshi's heart skipped a beat. She allowed him to stare at her in a daze, caught off guard. She never expected Gu to look at her like this. Did this guy have a grudge against the medical academy or the poison sect? Was he looking for a descendant of the poison sect for revenge? Han Yunshi immediately went on guard. She was about to dodge when Gu suddenly backed away. His eyes narrowed into two crescent moons as he smiled like a bear. Hee hee, poison lass, are you scared? Han Yunshi was about to fall back, but his teasing made her unable to stop herself. She gaped at Gu before her entire body toppled backward. Gu rushed to the table and hurriedly grabbed Han Yunshi. Carrying her, he spun her around and landed firmly on the ground. He hugged her as tenderly as before. Poison lass, if you really are, then I'll pretend you're not. Do you believe me? Why are you looking for a descendant of the poison sect? Han Yunshi asked seriously. Sometimes, she felt that Long Fei was especially hateful because he was like a taciturn gourd who never spoke a word. But right now, she realized that Gu Qixiao was the most hateful of all. He always laughed and joked about anything, but never spoke the truth. As a catalyst to refine an antidote. Gu was still grinning from ear to ear. Han Yunshi pushed him aside. Using a human as a catalyst to refine an antidote? What kind of poison are you infected with? The world's most poisonous poison, Gu chuckled. Han Yunshi ignored him. She'd been treating poisons for so many years, but she'd never heard of anyone using a human as a catalyst to refine an antidote. It didn't matter if this guy didn't tell her the truth. She wasn't going to tell him the truth anyway. Han Yunshi finished the tea on the table and turned to leave. She still had important matters to attend to, and couldn't be bothered to waste her breath on Gu. But Gu stopped her and handed over a canister of tea leaves. Here, new tea. He knew she liked new tea. Long Fei Yi had sealed off his tea plantation in Tianing, and this was the best tea he could find in Cloud Realm continent. Even he couldn't bear to drink it himself. Thanks. Han Yunshi really did like it. She was already at the door when she turned back. Gu Muling really likes you. Don't let her down. Han Yunshi, I really like you. Don't let me down, Gu said confidently. This guy. He's really something. Han Yunshi casually threw the canister at him and left without looking back. Gu caught the canister and smiled helplessly. Even after Han Yunshi's figure had disappeared from sight, Gu was still smiling. His smile was flirtatious and dazzling. If Long Fei Ye's eyes were unfathomable, then Gu's smile was unfathomable. He stood by the window and soon spotted a familiar figure at the entrance of the inn across the street. It was none other than Mu Ling. Actually, he'd bumped into Mu Ling many times in the capital. When he saw Mu Ling didn't see him. But each time, he didn't react at all. It was as if he was just a passerby who didn't recognize the girl. This time, Gu stared at her for a long time before his lips curved up in a naughty smile. Mu Ling had just received a messenger pigeon from her father, telling her not to return to Medicine City for the time being and to hide outside. News of her taking matters into her own hands at Tianning's Empress Dowager's birthday banquet and supporting the Duke of Qin, Long Fei Yi, by not sending any congratulatory gifts had already reached Medicine City. The Wang and Xie clans were extremely dissatisfied and called for a meeting in Medicine City to punish her. Everyone in the Mu clan was demanding that she be punished severely. Perhaps the Wang and Xie clans supported Long Fei Yi, but how could they easily let go of such a good opportunity for a genius from the Mu clan? As for the Mu clan, both the older and younger generations wanted their favorite Mu Ling-er to suffer a setback. They were even more eager than the Wang and Xie clans for Mu Ling-er to be punished. No matter how strong Mu Yingdong was, the pressure of public opinion and opposition from his own clan was too much for him to handle as the head of the clan. Besides, this was Mu Ling-er's fault in the first place. He could only use Mu Ling-er's whereabouts as an excuse to delay matters. Mu Ling-er was in a terrible mood when she received the news. She went back to her room and flopped onto her bed. As soon as she closed her eyes, her beautiful brows creased into a frown. As a genius pharmacist, how many people in Medicine City truly took pride in her? Her father was probably the only one. Almost everyone wanted her to die. She really didn't want to fight for anything. If possible, she'd rather be a person with average talent. I wonder where Chi brother is right now. She sighed in her heart, but in the next instant, she heard that familiar voice. You damned girl who bites the hand that feeds you, hee. Mu Ling-er immediately shot up from her bed and cried out in alarm. Chi brother, where are you? Gu descended from the roof and looked at her coldly. Mu Ling-er, how come I didn't know you were so vicious when I first met you? Mu Ling-er naturally knew that he was talking about the incident in the sky pit. She bit her lip and lowered her head. I also think I'm vicious. Chapter 3:18. Seeing Mu Ling-er hang her head dejectedly, Gu asked with interest, and then? I don't know. Mu Ling-er was very honest. If this was the past, she would have just let him do whatever he wanted with her. But now that Han Yunqi had already let her go, Chi brother was still taking her seriously, she felt very sad. She couldn't quite accept it. Gu beckoned her over with a finger. Help me do something. I won't bicker with you if you do. Mu Ling-er's dim eyes immediately brightened. She was in high spirits as she smiled brightly. She scooted over and asked happily. What is it? Just tell me. Gu tossed the prescription for broomcorn millet poison to her. Help me find Bear Chuan and Panoptic Red Lotus. Mu Linger's skills in the field of medicine were unparalleled. She was used to seeing all sorts of strange prescriptions in the world, but she couldn't understand this one. This is for the antidote, right? Mu Ling-er asked in bewilderment. Of course she recognized these ingredients, but she didn't know how they worked together. Just find the ingredients. Why do you care so much? Gu didn't tell Mu Ling-er that Mute Granny had been poisoned to the point of deafness and muteness, nor did he plan to tell her that this was the antidote for broomcorn millet poison. It wasn't that he was on guard against Mu Ling-er, but that he didn't think the girl needed to know, so he couldn't be bothered to tell her. Mu Ling-er asked resentfully. Then what about serpent fruit? It's not easy to find. Gu smiled. I have serpent fruit. Where did you get it? Mu Ling-er was astonished. As a genius pharmacist in Medicine City, she knew all sorts of wondrous medicines in Cloud Realm continent. As far as she knew, only His Excellency Pill Fiend from Medicine Ghost Valley had a serpent fruit. It was unknown whether it was ripe or not. I stole it, Gu replied offhandedly. You went to the Medicine Ghost Valley to steal things? Mu Ling-er was frightened. She had met His Excellency Pill Fiend once, and even now, she was still scared witless. That old thing was strange and terrifying. He was not easy to deal with. If he knew that Chi brother stole the serpent fruit, he would not let Chi brother have a good day. Gu avoided the question and threw a can of tea leaves to Mu Ling-er. It's new tea. Here you go. Mu Ling-er hurriedly caught it, afraid that it would break. She was very curious. I don't like to drink tea. I like it, Gu said as he walked out. Mu Ling-er opened the teapot suspiciously and smelled the aroma. Why didn't she know that Chi brother had this hobby? Chi brother but as soon as she looked up, Gu Qishao was gone. Chi brother, where are you going? Wait up. Mu Linger chased him all the way out of the inn, but Gu was long gone. Will it kill you to chat a little longer? Mu Linger pouted, her dissatisfaction written all over her face. Of course, she quickly returned to the inn and packed her things in a flurry to return to the Mu estate. Bear Chuan and Panoptic Red Lotus were two very rare ingredients that she couldn't remember clearly. She had to go back and check her notes for details. As for the messenger pigeon she'd received from her father, she'd long forgotten about it. Han Yunqi returned to the Duke of Qin's estate just past noon. She was planning to hide in her study and ponder over the perplexing butterfly illusion while waiting for Long Fei Yi to return. Unexpectedly, Long Fei Yi was actually in the flower gardens. She had forgotten the last time he was in the manor in broad daylight. When Han Yunqi arrived, Chu Shifeng was reporting on Aunt Ru's visit to General Bailey's estate to see Bailey Mingxiang. When he saw her, he withdrew. Han Yunqi got straight to the point. Your Highness, is Beauty's blood related to the perplexing butterfly illusion? Beauty's blood was cultivated from hundreds of poisons. If Long Fei Yi wanted it, it had to have something to do with the perplexing butterfly illusion. Long Fei Yi was about to explain when Zhao Mama suddenly came to report. Your Highness, Aunt Ru's come. She's at Sunset Cloud Pavilion and says it's urgent. She wants you there immediately. Long Fei Yi had purposely stayed at the estate today to wait for Han Yunqi. He didn't expect Aunt Ru to come here after visiting General Bailey's estate. His eyes flashed with displeasure, but he still rose to leave. He told Han Yunqi, wait for me, I'll find you later. Han Yunqi didn't have a good impression of Aunt Ru and felt a little uneasy. All right, I'll wait for you. As soon as Long Fei Yi arrived at Sunset Cloud Pavilion, Aunt Ru asked him sternly, are you going to tell Han Yunqi the secret of Beauty's blood? Is there a problem? Long Fei Yi retorted. You've changed. Aunt Ru scolded. Over the past few days, she'd been looking for a chance to make a move against Han Yunqi, but hadn't found a chance. Although she knew that her stubbornness would only disgust she couldn't bear to see it. After all, even a good girl like Bailey Mingxiang didn't have the right to know the secret of Beauty's blood. How could Han Yunqi know? Yi-Er had lost all reason because of Han Yunqi's charms. She'd given Han Yunqi the task of deciphering Rosemary, but she'd never allow Han Yunqi to know the secret of Beauty's blood again. Aunt Ru, if there's nothing else, I'll be leaving first. Long Fei Ye's cold attitude was enough to make anyone despair. But Aunt Ru only said, your uncle wants to see you. Same old place. Compared to Aunt Ru, Long Fei Yi respected his uncle even more. A complicated look flitted past his eyes before he turned and left without another word. Aunt Ru had already told her older brother, the head of the Tang clan and Tang Li's father, Tang Zijin, everything, including the secret that Han Yunqi was a guardian of the Shadow Clan. She dearly wanted to go deal with Han Yunqi right now, but she held back. She trusted that her brother would have a better idea than her. As soon as Long Fei Yi left the room, she immediately followed after him. The same old place Aunt Ru spoke of was located in the western suburbs of Tianning's capital city. Besides the solitary enclosure, Long Fei Yi also hid in the hidden pavilion. As its name suggested, the hidden pavilion was hidden in a steep cliff face, built according to the natural conditions of the cliff face. The entire building was hidden in the recess of the cliff face, while the protruding part was a man-made balcony. Standing on this balcony, one could overlook the entire capital city. Even Tianning's imperial palace was beneath their feet. By the time Long Fei Yi arrived, Tang Zijin was brewing tea on the balcony. The man was nearing 40 years old, but he didn't have a beard. His jade-like face was handsome and elegant. Uncle, when did you get here? Why didn't you say anything? Long Fei Yi asked mildly. You clearly knew that Li-Er was engaged, but you still hid his whereabouts. How abominable. Tang Zijin reprimanded unhappily. Long Fei Yi sat down and calmly poured tea. Uncle, a forced melon isn't sweet. Is that so? I think your forced melon isn't bad at all. Tang Zijin was clearly hinting at something. Long Fei Ye's eyes darkened, unaffected by Tang Zijin's words. He avoided the topic and asked, Uncle, you didn't come here just to criticize me, did you? Since Tang Zijin had said so, Tang Li must have been caught by now. I heard Aunt Ru say that you gave the perplexing butterfly illusion to Han Yunqi? Tang Zijin asked seriously. She was able to break through it, Long Fei Yi replied. Is that girl reliable? Aunt Ru said that her mother, Lady Tianxin, had unknown origins. Actually, Tang Zijin had long known the truth, but he knew Long Fei Ye's temper well. He wouldn't be as impulsive as Aunt Ru. Even if she's unreliable, she can't escape my grasp. Uncle, you can set your mind at ease, Long Fei Yi said mildly. This is a serious matter. Uncle believes in your discretion. Tang Zijin hesitated for a moment, then said, Your Aunt Ru is just worried about you. Don't hold a grudge against her. Strictly speaking, Tang Zijin wasn't just Long Fei Ye's uncle. He was also Long Fei Ye's subordinate. The same was true for Aunt Ru. The Tang sect's status was one level lower than the Bailey clan's. However, Long Fei Yi had never treated them as master and servant. Aunt Ru always acted like an elder, so Tang Zijin was much more polite. How could that be? Long Fei Yi didn't say a single word. Even Tang Zijin couldn't figure out his attitude. Of course, other than his own son, Tang Zijin was very patient when it came to Long Fei Yi. He took out an invitation and changed the topic. I'm here to bring Tang Li back, and to give you an invitation. The bright red invitation was undoubtedly Tang Li's wedding invitation. Long Fei Yi was surprised. So soon? If we don't hold the wedding soon, who knows what that brat will do? Tang Zijin was serious. Long Fei Yi flipped through the invitation, his eyes dark. He didn't say anything. When the time comes, bring Han Yunqi back with you. Since you trust her, you should tell her everything. Tang Zijin's attitude was completely different from Aunt Ru's. However, Long Fei Yi didn't seem surprised at all. He nodded silently. Okay. After drinking tea, the two chatted until night fell. Tang Zijin didn't ask about Han Yunqi again, and Long Fei Yi didn't take the initiative to talk about it either. No one who overheard their conversation would believe that Tang Zijin was here to speak for Aunt Ru. At night, Tang Zijin ordered someone to deliver good wine. It's been a long time since you've spent time with Uncle. How about a few drinks? If this was any other time, Long Fei Yi would definitely stay, but he refused this time. I still have matters to attend to. Maybe another day. Tang Zijin's eyes flashed with disappointment, but he quickly hid it and nodded with a smile. Go on then. Don't delay. As soon as Long Fei Yi left, Aunt Ru rushed out angrily. Why didn't you mention the beauty's blood? What's the meaning of this? Tang Zijin only gave her 4 words. Take your time. Big bro, this can't be delayed. The Shadow Clan is protecting someone. That Han Yunqi is the orphan of Western Qin's Imperial Clan. Aunt Ru said seriously. The Shadow Clan isn't hard to deal with, and Han Yunqi is even easier to deal with. The hard part is Fei. Remember, you can only use your wits. Tang Zijin's expression was pensive. He'd long come up with a plan. Everything would wait until Tang Li's wedding. As long as Han Yunqi dared to enter the Tang clan, he'd have a way to deal with her. Aunt Ru sucked in a deep breath. Although she was unwilling, she had no choice. I'll listen to you. After leaving the hidden pavilion, Long Fei Yi didn't immediately return to the leisurely cloud pavilion. Instead, he went to the solitary enclosure and personally dispatched 10 Shadow Guard experts with a single sentence. No matter what method you use, rescue Tang Li before the wedding. Whether Long Fei Ye's actions were to help Tang Li, or because he'd already sensed Tang Zijin's intentions, only he knew. By the time he finished arranging everything, it was already midnight when he returned home. The lights in the leisurely cloud pavilion were still lit. Chapter 319. In the dead of night, the Duke of Qin's hibiscus courtyard was even quieter. The lanterns in leisurely cloud pavilion were still lit. From a distance, one could see a beautiful figure standing in front of the window. It was Han Yunqi. Long Fei Yi stood in the garden's corridor and watched from a distance. He looked hesitant for a long time, but in the end, he still went over. Before Long Fei Yi even reached the leisurely cloud pavilion's courtyard, Han Yunqi spotted him. She hurried downstairs and ran to Long Fei Yi with a smile. You're back. She'd been waiting for Long Fei Yi ever since he left. She'd wanted to continue studying the perplexing butterfly illusion, but she couldn't calm down no matter what. Tang Zijin was Long Fei Ye's uncle and the head of the Tang clan. He was probably on the same side as Aunt Ru. Actually, she really didn't understand why Aunt Ru was so hostile towards her. Although she'd never met Tang Zijin, Han Yunqi knew that he wasn't a good person based on how he'd forced Tang Li to marry him. Long Fei Yi definitely didn't know that Han Yunqi had been standing in front of the window all night. Han Yunqi was very happy, but Long Fei Yi was very calm. He only nodded and walked into the study. Although this guy was always cold and indifferent, Han Yunqi could clearly sense that he wasn't in a good mood. She followed him in and asked, "The Tang clan. Did something happen?" Long Fei examined the various poison plants on her desk as he replied, "I'm fine." Oh. Han Yunqi was a little resentful. She knew there was something going on, he just didn't want to talk about it. Long Fei Yi soon saw the poison orchids that Han Yunqi had stored in a glass bottle. They were the highly corrosive plants they'd picked from the underground labyrinth of the poison sect's forbidden grounds. "Any progress with the perplexing butterfly illusion?" he asked mildly. He had given the perplexing butterfly illusion to Han Yunqi some time ago. What he wanted was the recipe for the perplexing butterfly illusion. Although Han Yunqi was busy these days, she didn't forget about it. There were two types of poisons. One was a single poison, and the other was a combination poison. Single poison. Poison, as the name suggests, was a single type of poison. Poisons that existed in nature, such as poisonous plants, animals, and stones, were mostly single poisons. Combined poison was the abbreviation for mixed poison. Most of the poisons that were concocted by humans were mixed together to form a new poison. For example, the 10,000 snake poison that Mu Qinggu was afflicted with was a typical example. Although the combination poison was a mixture of many poisons, there was only one type of poison after the mixture was made. The poison orchid was very peculiar. Its existence was beyond the scope of these two classifications. The detoxification system couldn't detect the toxicity of the poison orchid, but it could detect several types of single toxins in the poison orchid. Logically speaking, the poison orchid should be a combination poison. Because the detoxification system didn't have a record of it, it couldn't detect its toxicity. Han Yunqi had analyzed all of the single toxins in the poison orchid and found all of them to make a new type of poison. As a result, the detoxification system had a record of it. However, when she checked the poison orchid again, she still couldn't detect any toxicity. In other words, the new type of poison she made after analyzing the poison orchid wasn't the poison of the poison orchid itself. The detoxification system's analysis was the most accurate. It could even analyze the amount of poison in the poison orchid and make a new type of poison according to that amount. According to this principle, the detoxification system could detect the poison of the poison orchid. Han Yunqi couldn't understand it no matter how much she thought about it. She almost suspected that there was a problem with her detoxification system. In the end, she understood. The method I used was to extract each type of poison and then make a new type of poison according to the ratio. The poison orchid was grown, so its toxicity might be different. That's why the new type of poison I made wasn't the poison of the poison orchid. Han Yunqi explained seriously. A layman would probably be confused by her explanation, but Long Fei Yi immediately understood. He said, "So, the poison orchid is a new type of poison orchid that was created by crossing various types of single poison herbs." Right. This should be a hybrid type of poison orchid. Han Yunqi really thought that this guy was smart. This type of hybrid method wasn't new. Medicine Ghost Valley's Gu Qi Sha was an expert in this field, but he cultivated medicinal herbs instead of poisons. Perhaps the perplexing butterfly illusion was also cultivated. Long Fei Yi muttered to himself. Han Yunqi still hadn't been able to detect the poison of the perplexing butterfly illusion, not even the tiniest bit. She had always been very careful when it came to poisons. That's hard to say. Your Highness, the perplexing butterfly illusion is something from the poison sect, right? Long Fei Yi nodded, then said, "Whoever obtains the perplexing butterfly illusion controls the world." Han Yunqi had asked this question before, but Long Fei Yi had said that she didn't need to know that much. She hadn't expected that he would take the initiative to say so much today. Han Yunqi felt an indescribable sense of satisfaction. She felt like she was one step closer to this man and knew more about him. Of course, she was also very surprised. She hadn't expected the secret of the perplexing butterfly illusion to be like this. Whoever obtains the perplexing butterfly illusion controls the world. How did she understand this? One type of poison can conquer the world? Han Yunxi expressed her confusion. That's what this prince wants to know as well. How can one type of poison conquer the world? Long Fei Yi had pondered this question for more than 10 years. He didn't want to believe it, but this was something his mother had exchanged with her life. These were the last words his mother had said before she committed suicide. One type of poison conquers the world. This is all your mother can give you. What about the beauty's blood? What's the deal with the beauty's blood? Han Yunxi asked seriously. She had waited so late because she was worried about him, but also because she wanted to know what the beauty's blood was used for. Even though Aunt Ru had warned him, and even though Tang Zijin had been paying attention to this matter, Long Fei Yi didn't hide it from Han Yunxi. The perplexing butterfly illusion formula is mixed with the beauty's blood. That's where the perplexing butterfly illusion comes in. Han Yunxi knew that the beauty's blood had something to do with the perplexing butterfly illusion. Uses? What does the perplexing butterfly illusion do? Han Yunxi was even more confused. Aside from poisoning, what else could it be used for? Long Fei Yi had long suspected that his Mu Fei knew how to conquer the world with the perplexing butterfly illusion. She just didn't want to tell him. Long Fei Yi glanced at Han Yunxi without a word. He walked around the study table, looking at the poisons on the table as he fell into deep thought. Your Highness, does it have to be the beauty's blood? Han Yunxi wanted to ask. Does it have to conquer the world with the perplexing butterfly illusion? Long Fei Yi seemed to understand what she meant. His eyes flashed with a domineering determination. Han Yunxi, the world is bigger than you think. The world he wanted wasn't just limited to Tianning or the Three Nations. He wanted all of Cloud Realm continent, and even overseas. Han Yunxi gave a slight start. She always knew that Long Fei Yi wasn't a person who lived in a small pond, but she never expected him to have such wild ambitions. Long Fei Yi wasn't part of Tianning's imperial clan, but he still hadn't fought against Emperor Tian Hui despite holding great power. She always assumed that he had no interest in Tianning's imperial power, but now it looked like he wanted to use Tianning as a stepping stone. What about the Great Qin Empire's world? Han Yunxi suddenly recalled Cloud Realm Continent's golden age. Long Fei Yi didn't answer her. He stopped walking and said, "Prepare the medicine for Bailey Mingxiang. Get the beauty's blood as soon as possible. Perhaps it'll help you break through the perplexing butterfly illusion." Your Highness, it's supposed to take a lifetime to cultivate the poison blood. Once the time limit is shortened, Bailey Mingxiang will be in so much pain that he'll wish he was dead, Han Yunxi reminded him. Normally, a slow-acting poison every 2 to 3 months would take a person a lifetime to use 300 different poisons. No one can wait an entire lifetime, Long Fei Yi said. That's too cruel. Han Yunxi was both a doctor and a woman. In the end, she couldn't bear it. An entire lifetime is the cruelest. Long Fei Yi's voice was as cold as ice. Han Yunxi pursed her lips in silence. She looked at his grim profile and felt like she could see his cold, emotionless heart. Her heart couldn't help but shiver. Just how cold was this man's heart? Had he ever hesitated over Bailey Mingxiang's loyal subordinates? But he was right. An entire lifetime was the cruelest. Next time you go to General Bailey's estate, remember to bring the medicine with you. Long Fei Yi instructed before turning to leave. Han Yunxi was lost in her thoughts, her expression grave. But at this moment, Zhao Mama was about to bring supper to the study and blocked Long Fei Yi's path. Your Highness, please wait. This old servant knew you were coming, so I specially made your favorite snow lotus seed soup. Zhao Mama smiled until her eyes were covered in wrinkles. Only the heavens knew what she was so happy about. In short, she had been in the kitchen all night, cooking soup while smiling. Your Highness, you haven't eaten it in several years. Quickly try it and see if this old servant's skills have deteriorated. Long Fei Yi didn't even look at the snow lotus seed soup, but he still went back to sit down. Zhao Mama was overjoyed and quickly brought over 2 bowls of lotus seed soup. Princess Consort, quickly try it. This is what His Highness has liked to eat since he was young. Han Yunxi scooped up a spoonful and saw that the snow lotus seed had been boiled until it was gummy. It was still crystal clear and the lotus seed opened to reveal the tender green core. The soup was just right. With this appearance, Han Yunqi felt her mouth watering. Long Fei Yi liked things, so it must be a delicacy. Long Fei Yi had already begun eating. He held the bowl in one hand and the spoon in the other. His eyes were lowered as he quietly ate. His every movement was elegant and noble. Han Yunqi knew for the first time that Long Fei Yi liked something. She couldn't wait to know what it tasted like, but who would have thought that as soon as it entered her mouth, she would immediately spit it out? What kind of taste was this? Wasn't it too bland? Long Fei Yi looked up and knit his brows. Zhao Mama quickly came over. Princess Consort, why did you choke? Han Yunqi hadn't choked at first, but she was in a hurry to answer Zhao Mama. As soon as she spoke, she was choked by the remaining juice in her mouth. Coo-coo. Coo. She suddenly coughed and couldn't breathe. Long Fei Yi was very anxious and quickly sat down to pat her back. Zhao Mama originally wanted to help, but seeing this, she quickly pulled her hand back as if it was burned. She sternly said, "Your Highness, Princess Consort has choked." Patting her back is useless. You have to pat the front. Chapter 320. Han Yunqi coughed with all her might, but she still didn't recover. Long Fei Yi kept patting her back anxiously, but he didn't dare to use too much force. In a moment of desperation, he heard Granny Zhao's reminder. His large hand really reached in front of her and gently moved downwards. Again and again, he pressed them against her chest, carelessly brushing his fingertips over Han Yunqi's proud spot. In a flash, Han Yunqi only felt a current of electricity crawl from her heart to her entire body, leaving her with an indescribable feeling of limp and numbness. She sucked in a breath of cold air, and her breathing suddenly became smooth. She pursed her lips tightly, and her entire body stiffened. She didn't dare to cough again, and her little face, which was already red from holding it in, was now so red that it could burn with fire. She wanted to push his hand away, but her body was so stiff that she couldn't even control her own hands. Long Fei Yi was anxious, but he didn't know what he was doing. He continued to stroke her from top to bottom, and another inadvertent thing happened. Han Yunqi's body couldn't help but tremble. This time, Long Fei Yi realized that something was wrong with her. He quickly stopped, thinking that something was wrong with her. Han Yunqi, what's wrong? He asked anxiously. His handsome brows were furrowed so tightly that it seemed like they would never disappear. Not to mention Han Yunqi, even Granny Zhao had never seen Long Fei Yi so anxious before. Han Yunqi's ears were burning. I'm fine. Other than saying that she was fine, what else could she say? His hand was still on her chest. She didn't know if Granny Zhao, who was old and shrewd, had seen anything just now. She stood at the side with a faint smile. Long Fei Yi was completely unaware. He sized up Han Yunqi and only let go after confirming that she was fine. Eat slowly. He sat back down and continued to eat the lotus seed soup with his head lowered, as if he wasn't the one who was anxious just now. How could Han Yunqi still be in the mood to eat? She also lowered her head, but her heart was still thumping wildly, almost jumping out of her chest. Even being forcefully kissed by this guy didn't make her feel so alarmed. She knew that he didn't do it on purpose, but what was wrong with her? Her heart was beating so fast that she couldn't stand it. Esteemed Wang Fei, are you still not feeling well? Why aren't you eating? Granny Zhao asked. Long Fei Yi immediately looked up, but he didn't say anything. No, my throat feels a little uncomfortable. Han Yunqi made up an excuse. Granny Zhao immediately poured some water. Esteemed Wang Fei, here, moisten your throat. The room was quiet again. Han Yunqi found that Long Fei Yi was very quiet when he was eating. It didn't take long for him to finish eating. At this moment, Granny Zhao discreetly nudged her. Your Highness, it's already so late. Why don't you stay? Han Yunqi was not stupid. She immediately understood what Granny Zhao meant. She secretly pinched Granny Zhao, but didn't manage to stop her. Your Highness, it'll be dawn in 2 hours. You and esteemed Wang Fei should go upstairs to rest. This old servant will prepare breakfast for you. Your Highness hasn't eaten this old servant's tofu pudding in a long time, right? Granny Zhao asked while nudging Han Yunqi, asking her to stay. Han Yunqi didn't say a word and immediately pushed her back. Long Fei Yi was a smart person, so he understood Granny Zhao's meaning. He inadvertently glanced at Han Yunqi. It was just a glance, but Han Yunqi was so embarrassed that she didn't dare to look at him. He wouldn't think that it was her idea to ask him to stay, right? She only knew that once he left, her heart would always feel empty, but she never thought of it as Granny Zhao thought. There were some things that were unimaginable. Han Yunqi was clearly tricked by Granny Zhao, but facing this kind of situation, she was actually a little nervous. She didn't know how he would answer. The room was silent. The perpetrator, Granny Zhao, deliberately didn't say anything. In fact, she was also nervous in her heart. Long Fei Yi acted as if nothing had happened. He poured himself a cup of tea to rinse his mouth, then stood up. Seeing him stand up, the breath that Han Yunqi had been holding in her heart was all released. She felt very relaxed, but at the same time, she also felt empty. There was a sense of loss that she didn't even notice. Granny Zhao's disappointment was written all over her face. She was a little sad. Your Highness, it's really been a long time since you've eaten this old servant's breakfast. Who knew that Long Fei Yi would walk to the chaise lounge at the side and lazily lie down? This prince still has important matters to attend to, so I'll leave after resting for 2 hours. Granny Zhao was overjoyed. She actually ordered Han Yunqi, esteemed Wang Fei, quickly, bring His Highness a bedsheet. Han Yunqi didn't react for a moment and foolishly went upstairs. When Han Yunqi came back with the brocade bedsheet, Granny Zhao had already disappeared. All she saw was Long Fei Yi lazily lying on the chaise lounge with one hand supporting his head. His eyes were slightly closed. His handsome face that angered both men and gods lost some of its coldness and softness. Han Yunqi stood at the door in a daze. She only felt that this was a picture of a beautiful man, so beautiful that it seemed unreal. She stood there foolishly, forgetting what she came here to do. Not long after, Long Fei Yi opened his eyes and looked over. Han Yunqi, what are you standing there for? Actually, he knew when she arrived at the door and had been waiting for her the entire time. Han Yunqi finally returned to her senses and hurriedly took the brocade bedsheet. Just as she was about to drape it over him, Long Fei Yi sat up and took off his spacious white robe that was trimmed with gold. Han Yunqi immediately looked away. But. She couldn't help but sneak a peek at him again. She had saved countless people in her previous life and this life. She had made male patients take off their clothes countless times. She had long gotten used to it, but... Alright, there were no buts. It wouldn't hurt to look one more time. Han Yunqi, this fool, must have forgotten that she had made Long Fei Yi take off his clothes the first time she saw him. She sneaked a peek. Long Fei Yi had already taken off his outer robe. He was wearing a brocade white inner robe with a V-shaped neckline under his Adam's apple and narrow sleeves around his waist. It was neat and clean. Seeing Long Fei Yi lying down, Han Yunqi hurriedly covered him with a brocade bedsheet. She had to admit that this guy, even if he was wearing an ordinary inner robe, was so noble that he couldn't be offended. All right, he stayed. What about her? Long Fei Yi didn't say anything. He narrowed his eyes and seemed to be asleep, but also seemed to be taking a nap. Han Yunqi stood aside for a long time, not knowing what to do. It seemed that she should go upstairs to sleep. If she didn't sleep, it would be dawn. But this guy had stayed. According to the rules, it seemed that she had to serve him. Han Yunqi struggled for a while and finally sat down. She didn't notice that Long Fei Ye's eyelids were slightly raised and he glanced at her. The room was silent. Time was passing. It was almost dawn, but Han Yunqi didn't feel sleepy at all. She quietly looked at Long Fei Ye's peaceful sleeping face. She secretly wondered if Long Fei Yi stayed because he was really sleepy, or because he wanted to save her face. She admitted that she couldn't see through him. Even if it was a small matter, she couldn't guess his thoughts. The more she looked, the more she felt that this man was a stranger. Just how many things were there about him that she didn't know? After a long period of silence, Lil Thing carefully poked its little head out from under the desk. It had been hiding here since Long Fei Ye's arrival. Its bones were aching from all the nesting. As soon as it saw that Long Fei Yi had fallen asleep, It immediately slipped out and crawled onto Han Yunqi's body, rubbing against her pitifully. Mama Yunqi, don't you want me anymore? Why did you leave this cold, fiendish god sleeping here? It's too scary. At this moment, Long Fei Yi looked up again. Lil Thing immediately sensed danger and its fur stood on end. It jumped off Han Yunqi's hand and disappeared like a wisp of smoke. What's he so excited about? Han Yunqi was doubtful. She didn't realize that Long Fei Yi wasn't sleeping at all. Tu Shurchen was only 2 hours. As Han Yunqi sat, she didn't even know when she fell asleep. By the time she woke up, she found herself lying on the chaise lounge. Long Fei Yi had long disappeared without a trace. Could it be that he was still eating? She quickly got off the bed, only to discover that she was barefoot. Her shoes and socks were neatly placed to one side. Was it him? Warmth flowed through her heart. She didn't even bother to put on her shoes as she ran out barefoot, only to bump into Zhao Mama, who was about to enter the room. As soon as Zhao Mama saw her bare feet, she muttered, "Esteemed Wang Fei Yu. If His Highness saw you, he'd definitely be unhappy." "Where is he?" Han Yunqi asked. Zhao Mama's interest waned. If esteemed Wang Fei didn't keep him, how could this old servant's bowl of tofu pudding keep him? Didn't keep him? How was Zhao Mama going to keep Long Fei Yi? Han Yunqi sat back on the bed and raised her eyebrows as she looked at Zhao Mama. She didn't speak. Zhao Mama felt guilty and took the initiative to curry favor. "Esteemed Wang Fei, His Highness left at dawn. He said that he had something important to do in the U Pavilion and would only be back in a few days." Han Yunqi looked at her coldly and didn't say a word. "Esteemed Wang Fei, this is the first time His Highness told this old servant." No, he told esteemed Wang Fei about his whereabouts," Zhao Mama said with a chuckle. Han Yunqi couldn't hold it in any longer. "What's the matter? His Highness didn't say." "Esteemed Wang Fei, His Highness has many things to do," Zhao Mama replied. Han Yunqi became interested. "Where is the U Pavilion?" She knew of the existence of the U Pavilion and the Solitary Garden, but she had only been to the Solitary Garden. The U Pavilion seemed to be even more mysterious than the Solitary Garden. Zhao Mama chuckled. "Esteemed Wang Fei, this old servant will definitely tell you everything I know. This old servant can't wait for you to know more about His Highness." Han Yunqi suddenly didn't know how to answer her. She put on a fake smile and pretended not to hear. However, Zhao Mama became serious. "Esteemed Wang Fei, don't waste time with His Highness like this. This old servant can see that His Highness dotes on you." Seeing that Han Yunqi didn't speak, Zhao Mama said earnestly, "Esteemed Wang Fei, if there are 100 steps between you and His Highness, as long as you take one step, His Highness will definitely take the remaining 99 steps. Han Yunqi felt a little bitter. She didn't know how many steps she had taken in the 100 steps, nor did she know how many Long Fei Yi had taken. She only knew that the distance between them seemed to be a little long. "Esteemed Wang Fei, what's wrong?" Even Zhao Mama could sense Han Yunqi's heaviness. However, Han Yunqi smiled. Her clear eyes were especially bright as she joked. "Zhao Mama, can I take 99 steps? Esteemed Wang Fei, this old servant is serious. I'm not joking with you." Zhao Mama grew anxious. Han Yunqi was still smiling. "This Wang Fei isn't joking either. I'm telling the truth." Zhao Mama felt helpless. Han Yunqi took the chance to slip away, her smile still as she muttered to herself, 99 steps. How far is it? Han Yunqi didn't rest, but went to General Bailey's estate early that morning. While she was there, Gu Beiwei went to see Emperor Tianhui of his own accord. You're tuning in to the Dreamy Chapters YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.